Our protagonist is named Kim Seo-jun, a 27-year-old natural awakened who was born with a power greater than anyone else's. But to pay off the debt of his parents who died due to a mysterious accident, Kim Seo-jun had to work lifting hundreds of monsters for 9 years. There's only one thing that keeps him enthusiastic and continues to endure the tiring work and the burden of debt. It was his dream to become a pro hunter. Even though Kim Seo-jun is currently working hard, he still spends his time looking for a good and cheap hunter academy. Because if someone has been awakened, they are still required to learn. Many of the instructors at most hunter academies were active hunters and had fought, because the one who teaches about the experience and ins and outs of hunting later is a real hunter. Because of this, the gap between the educated and the uneducated widened. The era where one has to enter the hunter academy to become a hunter has arrived. After several years of saving, Kim Seo-jun finally has enough money to attend classes for 1 year at a hunter academy. Even though Kim Seo-jun wanted to go to a better hunter academy, the price to pay was too high, so Kim Seo-jun decided to enter an academy that fit his pocket. But the academy he went to wasn't too bad either. When Kim Seo-jun was having fun looking at his bank account, a strange advertisement suddenly appeared on his cell phone screen. The ad contained an invitation to enter an academy called the Transcension Academy. At first, Kim Seo-jun thought the ad was a scam. After all, this was the first time he heard the name of the academy. But after checking the academy's website, it wasn't too different from the others. But what made Kim Seo-jun interested were the names of the instructors, which were too strange. Unlike most people in Korea, Kim Seo-jun is also interested in a lesson on the basics of the spear and staff that will be taught by Heaven's Great Sage instructor. When Kim Seo-jun clicked on it, a monkey was seen explaining his lesson. Kim Seo-jun found it funny because his lesson would be explained by a monkey. However, after the monkey instructor showed his lesson, Kim Seo-jun gasped in surprise at the technique he had just seen. The technique could make a mountain crumble just like that. Kim Seo-jun thought it was a CGI effect, but it didn't look like that. Rather than that, even an S-class hunter couldn't do such a thing. After the explanation video ended, an invitation to register for the lecture appeared on his cell phone screen. Since Kim Seo-jun was still stunned by the technique he had previously seen, he immediately clicked on the list. However, because Kim Seo-jun is not a member of the academy, he must first register an account, and he will be billed for membership registration. Her total bill will be calculated taking into account her circumstances, which is $40,000. Surprised that even creating an account required such a large nominal amount of money, Kim Seo-jun finally didn't care and called him a fraud. Kim Seo-jun then returned to work, and a colleague at work noticed Kim Seo-jun was about to apply to an academy, seeing the look on his bright face. Kim Seo-jun also told him that he would enroll in Arc Hunter Academy because the instructors there were pretty good. They joked around a bit after that. Someone once said life is just a comedy when seen from afar, but it turns into a tragedy when seen up close. So to keep on laughing, you have to be able to control your pain. Therefore, you have to look far into the future. Because of that, Kim Seo-jun saw his future while surviving 9 years. Because of the accident, the nerves in Kim Seo-jun's legs experienced necrosis, and he was required to undergo surgery. However, Kim Seo-jun's place of work did not want to provide any compensation, so Kim Seo-jun spent all his savings to carry out the operation. What left Kim Seo-jun was only $3,000 left by Mr. Manchul. Amid his despair, an advertising notification reappeared on his cell phone. After opening his cell phone, it turned out that the advertisement notification was from the Transcension Academy website. Even though Kim Seo-jun couldn't find her again after that time, but he got the ad back. Kim Seo-jun received an offer to register for membership again, but what was different this time was that the bill amount was only $3,000, whereas previously the price was $4,000. Kim Seo-jun realized that his total bills followed the amount of money he had at that time. Kim Seo-jun also felt there was nothing wrong with trying. Then, Kim Seo-jun was shocked, because after registering, the money in the envelope flew away and just disappeared. Amid Kim Seo-jun's astonishment, suddenly his cell phone flashed, and a small person came out of his cell phone. Kim Seo-jun was wondering whether the previous accident also affected his head. The midget-bodied person greeted Kim Seo-jun. The little creature said that he was responsible for his initial education, mentality, and his mentor. Kim Seo-jun also asked if his name was indeed Mentor. Mentor answered that he meant Mentor the Mentor. Hearing that name, Kim Seo-jun asked if he might have been the mentor he knew, Odysseus's teacher. The mentor was happy because Kim Seo-jun knew who he was. Odysseus was the first student he taught. He told her it had been a long time since Odysseus became transcended, but he still maintained communication with him. In essence, their academy was an academy that taught people who wished to surpass the limits of that person's race. Hearing his explanation, Kim Seo-jun was shocked because this was not an academy for hunters but for transcendence. But Mentor answered why he compared with Hunter because their levels were so much different. He said their academy instructor could kill those S-rank hunters with just one finger. The mentor then asked Kim Seo-jun to fill out a form. His cell phone showed a transcendent aptitude test, a survey to determine lessons as a new student. The first option is combat, the second is production, the third is treatment, the fourth is the mind, the fifth is art, and the sixth is another. When asked what this was, Mentor said it was a survey to find out what kind of transcendent type Kim Seo-jun wanted, as well as to know his current abilities. Because this would serve him well, the mentor asked Kim Seo-jun to answer honestly. Even though Kim Seo-jun was still confused, he finally decided to choose the first option, namely fighting. However, in the second question, Kim Seo-jun was asked if there were any more problems. Kim Seo-jun answered that he didn't know which answer to choose. The second question is to choose the current level of ability. All of the answers were none of Kim Seo-jun's current abilities. Therefore, Kim Seo-jun looked confused. The mentor said that many people hesitated on the second question. He said Kim Seo-jun could choose the one that describes what he can do. He then asked if he could plow a plot of land with the force of one punch. Kim Seo-jun shook his head. Then how about splitting a huge mountain with just one strike? Kim Seo-jun said of course he couldn't, but he might be able to climb it. The mentor then asked if that meant he also couldn't uproot a mountain. Kim Seo-jun also answered, "Wouldn't it be weirder if you could do all of that?" The mentor was confused about how Kim Seo-jun could apply to this academy. The mentor then convinced Kim Seo-jun not to worry too much because Transcension Academy never expelled its members. After a while, Kim Seo-jun finally finished his survey. He looked exhausted because he had to answer 108 questions. Because Kim Seo-jun has a free pass, the mentor suggests some necessary lectures for him. After finishing checking the answers, the mentor found that Kim Seo-jun chose the spear fighting method. He said for spear users than mana cultivation, chi cultivation techniques might be better. Heaven's Great Sage's instructor was good for the basics, but for Kim Seo-jun, who couldn't even uproot a mountain, it would be difficult. He then showed Kim Seo-jun the best lecture. The first is the instructor Siddhartha Gautama. The second is instructor Kiran, mandatory course for transcendent fighters. The mentor said that not only are you injured, but Kim Seo-jun is also having mental problems. Because of that, he suggested the instructor Siddhartha Gautama. Kim Seo-jun then realized that Siddhartha Gautama was the Buddha. Siddhartha Gautama is one of the most popular instructors with mental lectures. It is also a required subject for the Transcendent exam. The mentor said the lecture would cost a lot of money to study, but Buddha kept talking about helping poor people. A moment later, a notification appeared on Kim Seo-jun's cell phone. When Kim Seo-jun registered, the notification informed him that he would get the SSS rank Unwavering Heart skill. The mentor explained that was the reason why this lecture became a compulsory lesson. That skill can let you break through many branches of transcendence. The mentor then said even though later Kim Seo-jun would feel like his brain would burn. The mentor then went to analyze Kim Seo-jun's profile. Since there was nothing to do, Kim Seo-jun decided to watch his lecture. Seeing the person in the video, Kim Seo-jun wondered if it was the Buddha. While watching the lecture, Kim Seo-jun thought that this was too difficult. Kim Seo-jun understood what the mentor meant earlier. Kim Seo-jun felt that his mind was going to explode. Lecture progress reached 0.06%. Kim Seo-jun looks like he is very tired. 1 week passed just like that. The doctor who examined Kim Seo-jun was very surprised by his extraordinary recovery speed. Even though he knew that Kim Seo-jun was an awakener, it still felt incredibly fast. It was the first time he had seen something like this after he had been a doctor for 30 years. Kim Seo-jun thinks it's not just his imagination. Thanks to instructor Siddhartha Gautama's lecture, Kim Seo-jun felt very calm and made his recovery speed faster. Even though it's only 1.3% learned, it's very effective. Kim Seo-jun was curious about what would happen if he had studied it 100%. The doctor said just in case he should stay in the hospital for another week. Kim Seo-jun also agreed with that. After that, because Kim Seo-jun could move his body, he tried to learn the second lecture, namely Chiron's lecture. By studying this lecture, he will get the Metamorphosis skill rank A. Even though his rank is lower, that doesn't mean his skills are bad. It was just that the unwavering heart skill was too extraordinary. In the lecture, Chiron can be seen who has the upper body of a human and the lower body of a horse. He is the teacher of many heroes in Greek mythology such as Hercules, Theseus, Achilles, Jason, and others. Kim Seo-jun was casually listening to the lecture, but suddenly Chiron shouted telling them to get up right now and don't be lazy like dogs. Chiron's scream startled Kim Seo-jun. Chiron's scream startled Kim Seo-jun and fell off his bed. After that, a notification appeared in front of him that said daily tasks. After taking into account the student's current abilities, a suitable task is assigned to him, namely running 30 kilometers, then 1,000 squats ups, 300 sit-ups, and 150 pull-ups. Kim Seo-jun thought that his task was beyond my ability. Moreover, the doctor said not to do anything excessive this week. For now, Kim Seo-jun will listen to lectures and will start assignments after he's discharged from the hospital. That way, Kim Seo-jun intends to skip his duties and go straight to the next. But his cell phone informed him that because his assignment was not finished, he could not continue his lecture before completing his assignment. Even though Kim Seo-jun constantly tries to pass his assignments, the result is still the same. Kim Seo-jun is confused as to why the system knows if he has not completed his task. When he was about to try to listen to the main lecture again, he realized that he had 83 days left for his privacy. Like it or not, he has to do his job. Since Transcendent Academy was an academy as well, it made sense that there was a time limit for lecture attendance. The remaining time is 83 days, if calculated from the beginning, maybe around 90 days, 3 months. Kim Seo-jun didn't know where this academy came from, but he had to absorb the contents of Lecture 1 and reach a certain level of understanding to improve his lecture progress. Even if he repeats his lecture, the result is still the same if he doesn't understand the content. Kim Seo-jun is also not confident about completing his lecture with 83 days remaining. The free pass means just a trial. Kim Seo-jun finally has to work out after a long time. Because so far Kim Seo-jun had no reason to exercise, Kim Seo-jun chose to do his first push-up assignment. During these 9 years, all he has been doing is transporting raid monsters from hunters. What he usually carries weighs about 70 kilograms. He still felt fine with the task. Even though he didn't know how to use mana yet, he was still a crewman. He believes in his body. Kim Seo-jun felt that he had done 300 push-ups, but when he looked at his cell phone screen, he only counted 81 times. It turns out that what counts is push-ups according to the right movement. After that, Kim Seo-jun repeated his push-ups. When finished, proceed with other tasks. Finally, Kim Seo-jun managed to complete his tasks at night. A few days later, a patient's grandmother noticed that Kim Seo-jun's body looked much better. He asked if he was exercising again. Kim Seo-jun answered yes. The grandmother also said that Kim Seo-jun worked very hard. On television, news was reported that this morning around 5 a.m., a 4-star monster behemoth suddenly appeared in the city of Seoul. The association stated that the monster was in a sedated state, but the monster shipping company didn't know about that and moved the monster into the city. Then at that moment, the monster woke up. This situation could have caused the death of many people. But coincidentally, there was a crew from around the place who managed to kill the monster before there were casualties. The awakener was a cadet from Gaon Academy. After seeing the news, the granny patient said the hunters had saved people again. The grandmother then remembered Kim Seo-jun saying that he was also an awakener. So the granny patient asked, does that mean Kim Seo-jun was also a hunter, right, and would appear on TV as well? Before Kim Seo-jun answered his question, a gentleman asked if the grandmother thought that everyone could become a hunter just like that. Nowadays, it is very difficult to become a hunter, and Kim Seo-jun seems to have not entered any academy. So he told Kim Seo-jun to give up and don't waste his youth on something that would never happen. The gentleman's words made Kim Seo-jun remember all the efforts he had made for the past 9 years. Hearing that, he said he would decide what to do with my life himself. He then told the father to pay attention to his own life. After that, Kim Seo-jun stepped away, leaving the father and patient grandmother. Kim Seo-jun is a cadet of the Transcendent Academy. He has been feeling the effects of his lectures since the end of this week. Becoming a pro hunter is not impossible. Back doing his training, he decided to become a pro hunter. Elsewhere, a woman said that she hated being a hunter. He asked what was the point of building an academy if buying things still required money, but the academy still had no cadets. He felt like he could die of annoyance. After that, we move on to Kim Seo-jun, who has been discharged from the hospital. Even though he was only in the hospital for 2 weeks, he still felt that nothing was more comfortable at home. Suddenly he thought about something about 1 year left before the Hunter exam was held. He wondered how much money was left in his bank account. He is really poor at the moment. Kim Seo-jun remembered that he had completed his price assignment today. He couldn't do it till now, as he always postponed it for tomorrow, but today maybe it can be done. After opening his cell phone, a notification appeared to study the next lecture. Of course, Kim Seo-jun immediately agreed. Chiron said a good job, because it already has enough strength so it can take small steps forward. Because you already have better abilities, go ahead little by little. He told her the first step as a transcendent was sense. After studying the lecture learning process increased by 57%. The next morning, Kim Seo-jun went back to where he worked before. Kim Seo-jun didn't want to go back to that place but had no other choice. Although it is annoying to see the boss like that, in the end, money is the problem. If he doesn't work, he can't eat. If you make money, you won't have enough time to attend lectures. And if he failed to complete the daily assignments Chiron's instructor gave him, he couldn't attend any lectures at all. It was really hard to decide what he should choose. Amid his confusion, Kim Seo-jun remembered what Chiron's instructor taught him the last time. Something about senses. While thinking that, Mr. Manchul's co-worker entered the room where he was sitting. 5 things play an important role in the fight, namely sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. Chiron called him the 5 senses. Usually the 5 senses will process understanding, recognizing, and assessing for each stimulus received. But that process is very slow. Therefore, Chiron will teach him how to speed up this process as best he can. Something much different from 5 senses. Hidden abilities, 6th sense, intuition. When Kim Seo-jun was focused on remembering the lecture, Mr. Manchul greeted Kim Seo-jun by trying to put his arm around his shoulder. But Kim Seo-jun, without looking back, could easily avoid that embrace. And when he realized, they were both surprised. Mr. Manchul asks if he has eyes on the back of his head. Their boss, who saw this, immediately scolded him because they were not working and instead chatted like that, and they immediately went to work. Amid their work, Pak Manchul was worried about the one who had 200 kilograms to carry on his back. But Kim Seo-jun said it was fine. He only asked Pak Manchul to help him climb onto his back. After being loaded, Kim Seo-jun casually carried the 200 kilograms piece of monster on his back. Even though he was also worried seeing that he could walk casually like that, it seemed that Kim Seo-jun was fine. The co-worker says it's time to rest and continue work later. Kim Seo-jun thought it felt strange because his strength was coming out of his body. He gets to thinking if he has to do daily chores, time will not be enough after work. That way, Kim Seo-jun tries to do squats with weights on his back. After checking his cell phone, Kim Seo-jun was very surprised because his squats were counted as 3 squats. Perhaps the effect becomes stronger with increasing weight. That means this is a great opportunity because of joy. So ignore his time off and instead help the work of other workers. Even though the method is strange, as long as it still has an effect, it counts. Kim Seo-jun has to set aside time to do his daily lecture assignments he can do while he's at work. If it's heavier, the count will add up faster. That means Kim Seo-jun can make money and produce daily tasks at the same time, like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. At night, Kim Seo-jun felt his body was very tired. Doing daily tasks while at work saves time, but it's still hard to do. Only he dared to exercise while lifting monsters. At least thanks to that he could save some time. Kim Seo-jun thought that because there was still plenty of time after finishing the 2 lectures, he could finish it quickly. But it felt a waste to finish it like that. Finally, after thinking for a long time, Kim Seo-jun decided to take another lecture. After quite a long time choosing, Kim Seo-jun was attracted by instructor Xiang Yu's lecture. He wondered if it was possible that the Xiang Yu he was referring to was the person who had appeared in the legend of Chudan Han. He is known as a person who has great power. He is the reason the term "he who can oppose 10,000" was born. Because this lecture was pretty good and free, finally Kim Seo-jun signed up for this lecture. When Kim Seo-jun registered for this lecture, he got the mountain pulling spearmanship skill rank A. Kim Seo-jun immediately opened Xiang Yu's lecture. After pressing the button, Xiang Yu seemed to say that those who picked up this texture were only trash people who didn't understand the bottom line. Xiang Yu will teach them, and they don't need to think about anything else. He said use it. Instill the way of using the spear into the body and senses. After that, come back to him. Thus Xiang Yu lectured. The daily task given is to swing the spear weapon 5,000 times. The lecture is really over. Even so, Kim Seo-jun could only accept it. The next day, Kim Seo-jun's workplace was visited by a rank B hunter, Park Seo-yoon. The place was under scrutiny for a while due to the previous behemoth incident. He doesn't want to happen to the workers there again. Their boss is acting weird to Park Seo-yoon. One of the workers realizes that the hunter is Swordstar's grandson, Swordstar Park Min-chul. 100 years ago, he was an awakener who was active when the gate concept was started. Unlike now, when they already had systematic knowledge about awakeners, the monsters back then were more vicious. Such monsters roam the streets. Times when humanity's safety could not be ensured. Park Min-chul became an awakener at that time. He became one of the people who returned the world to human hands. He who saved the world, a hero. But time has passed, and maybe now he is an old man, but he is still a heavyweight who can compete globally. Kim Seo-jun was shocked when he heard the name Park Min-chul the hero. But after that he continued to work because he didn't care about it. Park Seo-yoon, who saw Kim Seo-jun work, was amazed. The boss of this place suggested to ignore it because he has been like that since last week. Park Seo-yoon finally ignored Kim Seo-jun, who was like that. Kim Seo-jun, who was handing over a monster to Mr. Manchul. But Park Manchul felt a little annoyed seeing Kim Seo-jun's behavior like that. After joking around with him a bit, Kim Seo-jun left Mr. Manchul to take the monster pieces back. But it was not supported that a monster was found behind Mr. Manchul, who was still alive. Kim Seo-jun, who saw this immediately, shouted out Mr. Manchul's name. Park Seo-yoon looks tired and annoyed because he is constantly being followed by the boss of that place, who is very annoying. When Park Seo-yoon was resting, the workers there were still talking about him. Of course, Park Seo-yoon could hear them, but he didn't care about it. The workers were talking about Park Seo-yoon, who was only in rank B, in contrast to his grandfather Park Min-chul, who became a hero. Although to everyone whose name Swordstar is known as a hero, for Park Seo-yoon that name is only a burden to him. Wherever he went, even though he had been raised by his grandfather since he was young, that wall called the Swordstart was too high for him to overcome. For him, who is always compared to his grandfather, his dream is to become an educator. Park Seo-yoon, who can't live a normal life just because he is the granddaughter of Swordstar. It's also not much different from the Hunter Academy. When people found out that Swordstart wouldn't be teaching at the Hunter Academy that Park Seo-yoon founded, everyone lost interest and left. Those people must have registered not because of him, but because of Park Min-chul's big name. Park Seo-yoon went back around while thinking about that. If only he had a great disciple. A single person is okay to him. Suddenly, Park Seo-yoon was startled by a worker who was running scared. He told everyone there to run because in that place a monster had appeared. On the other hand, Kim Seo-jun is confused because a manticore monster who was thought to be dead was actually still alive and attacked them. Plus, his colleague Park Manchul fell in front of the monster. Even though Mr. Manchul told Kim Seo-jun to run and not worry about him, Kim Seo-jun still couldn't leave him. He couldn't leave Park Manchul because Park Manchul would surely die if he left him. An ordinary person could never beat a monster. Even an awakener would be no different if they couldn't use mana. Not to mention, the Manticore was a 4-star monster that even professional hunters had a hard time defeating. Kim Seo-jun was thinking hard. He remembered the hunter Park Seo-yoon he saw earlier, but at this time Park Seo-yoon was not there. If asking for his help, it might be too late to save Mr. Manchul. Someone has to do something. Kim Seo-jun finally decides to save Mr. Manchul. He took off the tool for transporting monsters on his back and picked up an iron staff lying beside him. Kim Seo-jun swings the iron pipe at the Manticore monster. That way the Manticore monster can be knocked back so that Park Manchul can be saved. He immediately ordered Park Manchul to leave from there. Even though his hands were shaking, he had to buy time for Hunter Pro to come there. But the pressure from the Manticore monster he was facing now made him tremble with fear. In the midst of his fear, Kim Seo-jun suddenly remembered Siddhartha Gautama's lecture. That way, Kim Seo-jun's mind and heart were afraid to calm down again. He could face the monster calmly. Plus, the memory of Kiran's lecture counterbalanced the Manticore monster's attack. When Kim Seo-jun managed to dodge the attack by jumping up, while he was in the air, he remembered Xiang Yu's lecture teaching. Thus, Kim Seo-jun issued an attack that succeeded in making the Manticore monster split into two, and an explosion occurred. Because of the effect of the attack, Hunter Park Seo-yoon and the workers immediately approached the direction of the explosion. But what they saw after the smoke island disappeared was Kim Seo-jun with an iron pipe in his hand, and behind him lay the corpse of a Manticore monster that had been split into two. After waking up, Kim Seo-jun instead acted strangely like a confused person. Witnessing this made Park Seo-yoon very surprised. He couldn't believe a monster carpenter who wasn't even a hunter could kill a monster with just an iron pipe. Park Seo-yoon kept watching Kim Seo-jun, but Kim Seo-jun ran past him instead. He was worried about Mr. Manchul's condition, but Mr. Manchul looked fine. On the other hand, Mr. Manchul doesn't believe that Kim Seo-jun can kill the monster. Kim Seo-jun explained that he likes to practice alone, so don't worry too much. Kim Seo-jun was immediately surrounded by other workers. They praised Kim Seo-jun for defeating his monster and saving his comrades. Park Seo-yoon thought he had finally found an outstanding student. In the afternoon, after their work was finished, Kim Seo-jun parted ways with his co-workers. He checked the progress of the lecture on his cell phone. It has developed rapidly. Rather than hearing that over and over again, Kim Seo-jun realized that his fight with the Manticore just now had an effect on the development of his lecture course. In other words, the way to improve his lecture development is by taking the theory he learned from it and using it in real combat. The problem was, if he couldn't get into the Hunter Academy and get a hunter's license, he couldn't do Dungeon Raid. The Transcendent Academy wasn't a real academy either, so it was useless. When Kim Seo-jun was thinking about that, Park Seo-yoon, who had been paying attention to him, called Kim Seo-jun and asked him to chat for a while. Kim Seo-jun turned his head and thought why someone seemed to want to talk to him. Park Seo-yoon straight to the point. He wanted Kim Seo-jun to come with him to meet his grandfather. Kim Seo-jun emphatically answered no, and immediately walked away, leaving Park Seo-yoon. Of course, Park Seo-yoon didn't just give up. He returned to chase Kim Seo-jun. But Kim Seo-jun thought it would be better to go home and listen to the lectures so that he would get stronger. Park Seo-yoon is a 31-year-old hunter. This was the first time he had done it in his 30 years of life. Because of that, he was a little restless and confused. Park Kim Seo-jun saw Seo-jun doing strange exercises, and Kim Seo-jun was able to defeat a 4-star Manticore with his fighting skills, which were still 2 stars. Even though the monster had weakened, it was clear that Kim Seo-jun was trying to become a hunter. Park Seo-yoon asked Kim Seo-jun to join his Hunter Academy, which has no students in it, and is technically just an academy on paper. But Kim Seo-jun said that he didn't need that. Because he was already on the edge, Park Seo-yoon was forced to say what if his grandfather would teach him. But Kim Seo-jun replied that it was not important. Park Seo-yoon continues to offer with other lures. Finally, he saw Kim Seo-jun slow down. He was proposed by Park Seo-yoon that he would not ask for any fees. Hearing that, Kim Seo-jun stopped his steps. He said that if he only wanted him to enter his academy, if I got the facilities, of course there is a task that must be done to be able to enjoy the facilities. So Kim Seo-jun asked what to do for him. Park Seo-yoon said that before Kim Seo-jun passed the hunter exam, he asked Kim Seo-jun to take the name of his academy, and wherever he went, he carried the dignity of his academy. Kim Seo-jun thought honestly that this was a tempting offer. All his problems can be solved in one go, and the things he has to do are also very easy compared to the facilities he gets. But Kim Seo-jun asked why Park Seo-yoon wanted him to join. Park Seo-yoon also answered because he saw potential in Kim Seo-jun. Park Seo-yoon's eyes looked very serious when he said that. Kim Seo-jun thought a pretty good answer. A relationship where we take advantage of each other, you can say that in the future, they will need each other. Then Kim Seo-jun smiled and looked at Park Seo-yoon and got acquainted properly this time. The next day, Kim Seo-jun received a call from Mr. Manchul. He asks what all this is his doing. Their work leader was suddenly replaced today. Kim Seo-jun recalled his request to Park Seo-yoon yesterday. He just smiled, then answered. Maybe he resigned because he felt responsible for yesterday's incident. After a while they chatted on the phone. Kim Seo-jun finally arrived at Park Seo-yoon's Hunter Academy. When he arrived, Park Seo-yoon immediately greeted him and immediately gave Kim Seo-jun a temporary hunter license. Even though Kim Seo-jun is still not a pro hunter, he feels like this is his first step towards achieving his dream. This is where it all started to teach him the method to raid dungeon. But Park Seo-yoon said it was unnecessary. He immediately told Kim Seo-jun to choose the most comfortable weapon for him, and after that they could go straight to the dungeon. Park Seo-yoon had arranged a raid for him. A few moments passed. Kim Seo-jun is already in an animal dungeon. But Kim Seo-jun complained because Park Seo-yoon still followed him into the dungeon. Because Kim Seo-jun was his only student, Park Seo-yoon said how could he possibly ignore him. He assured Kim Seo-jun not to worry because he would not interfere at all. Just think of him as guaranteeing his safety here, provided exclusively by the academy head. Park Seo-yoon then explained that even though this dungeon was still a low level that only contained kobolds, Kim Seo-jun could not let his guard down one bit. Kobolds are 2-star beasts. It's the perfect place for beginners like Kim Seo-jun who don't have any experience. Fortunately, just like against the Manticore, their mana defense can be easily destroyed. Normally an ordinary weapon that is not filled with mana will bounce when it is hit by any Kim Seo-jun can make money through dungeon raids. Kim Seo-jun also asked to increase his speed. He felt happy because he felt like he was grinding EXP in the game. From the start, Park Seo-yoon thought that Kim Seo-jun was strange, but his madness pierced his imagination. After returning from Dungeon Park, Seo-yoon saw Kim Seo-jun, who kept staring at the dark blank screen on his cell phone. But the weirdness doesn't end there. A cadet without the proper education. Someone who was doing their first raid in a dungeon, but could slay hordes of kobolds like an experienced hunter. It also does a strange sport when moving its monster corpses. But because his grandfather already knew that he had gotten a new cadet, Park Seo-yoon could not hide things this time. He was so doubtful about the decision he made. We turn to Kim Seo-jun, who looks happy to see the balance in his bank account. He easily earns almost $1,000 in a day. But the problem is too much time and effort is used for it. So he could not have time to complete all the teachings. He thought of asking Pak Mun-chul to cooperate. If it was him, Kim Seo-jun could trust him. Kim Seo-jun is walking home. He thinks about many things. He thinks about what he should do with the money he earned. Saving might be a good idea, but he wants to put his money to good use. Raid in dungeons helped him earn money and increase his selection progress rate, but his lecture growth wasn't as fast as he thought. Even during yesterday's raid, killing kobolds didn't increase his progress at all. He wondered if there was a quicker way to make him stronger, like Heaven's great sage Sun Wukong. He suddenly remembered the teaching of his lecture that was shown in the advertisement earlier. He had never thought of attending the teachings due to lack of money, but now maybe he could. That way Kim Seo-jun downloaded to register for the lecture. But the registration fee was very surprising, which was 27 million. Kim Seo-jun immediately became lethargic after seeing the registration fee. Kim Seo-jun then thought of another way, such as selling items or other items. But he forgot that he was in the middle of Capital Street, which made everyone stare at him strangely. After searching for a long time, he finally found a shop on the Academy's website, and to his surprise, it sold Elixir, Aegis Shield, and even the Lance of Longinus. Even if it was just copies, these were mythic-level equipment. Even for him who didn't know much about equipment, it all seemed quite extraordinary. But if the equipment belonged to a student who was accepted into the academy, it meant that the equipment was also the result of someone transcended. Even though it's just a rival then, Kim Seo-jun wants to try to buy the Lance of Longinus. The next day, Kim Seo-jun was seen practicing with great enthusiasm. He was like that because he didn't expect the price of the equipment to also shock up to $100,000. Kim Seo-jun looks very upset, but still in the end he looks very sad. Given that money has always been a problem, even earning $100,000 is extremely difficult. Even he couldn't predict when he would be able to learn the expensive 27 million teachings with the instructor of the great sage, equal to heaven. Park Seo-yoon, who was lamenting his situation, told him about the conventional academy. As the name implies, it is an inter-academic contest, a place competition to show the strengths of each academic. Park Seo-yoon then submitted documents relevant to the competition. He told him to think of it as a place to evaluate academy levels. These kinds of competitions varied quite a bit, but the Convention Academy was in the 4th league level of such competitions. If you show good performance during the convention, you can get the right to participate in a higher league. You can also add prospective students who will enroll in the academy, and of course get recognition from the government. Therefore, all the Hunter Academies will not play around. They will send the best candidate from their academy. Park Seo-yoon wanted Kim Seo-jun to participate in the competition as a representative for his academy. Kim Seo-jun thought this was a good opportunity for his experience and immediately agreed to join the competition. Park Seo-yoon then explained that although they couldn't know the exact details, but the evaluation was done by combining the scores from the raid and the cadet tournament. Hearing that, Kim Seo-jun thought that his experience fighting monsters was only against Manticore and Kobold. He also had no experience fighting other cadets. But he was taught by a star. Maybe it is not appropriate for a hunter who is not that great to judge a hunter. But Kim Seo-jun was curious about how strong Park Seo-yoon was. They immediately took their positions. Kim Seo-jun ran to attack him first. Park Seo-yoon realized that Kim Seo-jun's movements were very stiff. Even though Kim Seo-jun walked quickly, his steps could also be considered sloppy. The direction of attack is predictable. Park Seo-yoon had thought that Kim Seo-jun was really good at fighting kobolds before. He thought that Kim Seo-jun was still a cadet, so Park Seo-yoon intended to end it with one attack. But Kim Seo-jun managed to block his attack, which even contained mana. The weapon should have left his hand. After that, he just had to threaten him with a sword. Kim Seo-jun, who was pushed back, said that he would also be serious about it. After that, Kim Seo-jun surprised Park Seo-yoon with his different momentum. Kim Seo-jun's attacks became faster and stronger, much different from before. On Kim Seo-jun's side, he is in his serious mode. He was directed by the instructor, Xiang Yu. When Kim Seo-jun was in a serious mode, Park Seo-yoon couldn't attack either because he was continuously pressured by Kim Seo-jun. In the last attack, because according to Park Seo-yoon, Kim Seo-jun's attack could harm him, he unknowingly used his full strength and ended up sending Kim Seo-jun flying. Kim Seo-jun then got up casually and said he was the one who lost this time. Hearing Kim Seo-jun say that, Park Seo-yoon thought that meant he could win earlier, even though it was a battle between a different hunter and a cadet. Kim Seo-jun also thinks a B-rank hunter is really great. The sensation was different compared to when he was fighting monsters. The sparring made Kim Seo-jun aware of the difference between him and a professional hunter. Park Seo-yoon thinks that even though Kim Seo-jun is a bit weird, he wants to fight this hard. Park Seo-yoon agreed with the sparring exercise, but Kim Seo-jun just found out that the competition has a prize money of around $100,000. His spirits were burning again, and immediately did his strange exercise. 2 weeks later, convention day arrived. People started crowded in that place. It was only natural for ordinary people to watch as hunters fighting were government. He immediately entered the waiting room players. His body was stiff and wouldn't move, especially seeing the equipment of the people there. They all looked confident. While looking around the cadets, his attention was diverted by a cadet who looked normal with makeshift equipment. Those cadets they thought were cadets from Rotten Academy trying to make a name for themselves. Even though he heard everyone else's words, he still focused on looking at his phone. He immediately thought that Kim Seo-jun was also like him. You're in a new class and you don't know anyone there, so you pretend to be busy with your cell phone. He looked at Kim Seo-jun with pity, like a donkey meeting another donkey. He then tried to approach Kim Seo-jun. He immediately introduced himself. His name is Lee Min-gi, 19 years old, and a natural awakener. Kim Seo-jun also introduced himself, but didn't really care about that. But in the middle of Lee Min-gi, who was getting acquainted with Kim Seo-jun, another cadet made a fuss that caught their attention. Lee Min-gi tells the cadet named Jung Duk-chul cadet from Gochuri Academy. He uses an axe as his main weapon, and the one who was arguing with him was Lee Chulman, cadets of the Mint Academy. However, Kim Seo-jun felt strange because Lee Min-gi explained everything, even though no one asked him. Suddenly someone stopped their fight. That person was named Lee Junhwan from Revenant Academy. Lee Min-gi explained that the cadet was the winner of this convention. Kim Seo-jun doesn't understand why the cadet is the winner, not the potential winner. Lee Min-gi said that at first he refused to take part in this tournament because he said that the competition was very weak, but maybe something happened at Revenant Academy that made him decide to participate. As long as he participates, his victory is guaranteed. There were rumors that his grandson, Swordstar, offered him a contract, but perhaps because he was so confident in his abilities, he turned down the offer. Kim Seo-jun can already guess the reason. Cadet Lee Junhwan looks very angry because he has to take part in the tournament because of his uncle who wants to play up the prestige of the tournament and will recognize his achievement. He then recalled Park Seo-yoon's offer, stared at by the shabby-looking cadet. He didn't expect that even trash like that could enter his tournament. Kim Seo-jun was attracted to him, who was recruited by Park Seo-yoon. Kim Seo-jun was curious how much progress his lecture would have had if he fought that Lee Junhwan. After a while, an announcement sounded that the tournament was about to start. During the past 2 weeks, Kim Seo-jun prepared with the aim of increasing the progress of instructor Chiron and Xiang Yu's lectures by 30%. Even though he didn't feel his strength increase or anything else when he increased his abilities, he could feel the 19% versus 20% difference more clearly than the 20% versus 21% difference. And his lack of experience fighting the other cadets had been made up for with the raid dungeon and training with Park Seo-yoon. He is confident that he can win this tournament. But Kim Seo-joon immediately fell silent when he found out that the first match was the dungeon maze race. The spectators outside saw so many people filling the place. The first round is dungeon maze race. This match is forbidden to attack other cadets. Participants are required to pass from the maze. And there will also be monsters in the labyrinth that will help the cadets escape from the labyrinth with a hint. The audience's attention is drawn to Cadet Lee Junhwan, who is showing off his outstanding abilities. The audience was somewhat surprised to see Cadet Lee Junhwan participating in this tournament. However, due to the jolt of surprise, Park Seo-yoon was almost caught by the other spectators. If that happened, Park Seo-yoon would not be able to watch peacefully in the audience seats. We turn to Kim Seo-joon, who is trying to destroy the wall to make it easier to get out of the maze. But because the wall is very sturdy, he has to do it the normal way. In the middle of his journey, he found 3 intersections. He was going to choose the left path, but something was guiding him to move in the opposite direction. Maybe it was part of the intuitive sixth sense from Chiron's lecture. That way Kim Seo-joon followed his intuition, but Kim Seo-joon felt something was strange. An announcement then appeared announcing the other eliminated cadets. Kim Seo-joon thought that when he heard the announcements that appeared from time to time, the other cadets seemed to have encountered monsters and were fighting. But until now, Kim Seo-joon has not found a single monster. Kim Seo-joon thinks intuition has led him to avoid monsters. If so, Kim Seo-joon wondered what if he had achieved 100% progress and studied metamorphosis. Would he be able to create a future or something? But this is just an assumption, because he actually met people. When asked, Kim Seo-joon said he just walked as he pleased. Lee Min-gi explained that the easiest method to solve the maze is to use the right or left-hand method. If they continued walking towards the wall on the left hand, even the most difficult labyrinth would be solved easily. But according to Kim Seo-joon, it took too long. Lee Min-gi, they will get lost if they don't use that method. Kim Seo-joon then suggested that if that was the case, they should split up. But before that, Kim Seo-joon asked why Lee Min-gi followed him. Lee Min-gi answered that because they are partners in the same situation. He participated of his own free will. Lee Min-gi thought Kim Seo-joon was also participating alone. Aren't weak people supposed to work together? Kim Seo-joon thinks that he looks weak. Lee Min-gi then showed a photo of his sister. He thinks it will increase his energy because he looks cute. But Kim Seo-joon doesn't care and wants to leave Lee Min-gi. But Simon was quite persistent. Even though he talked a lot but he explained a lot of things in the waiting room, Kim Seo-joon wanted to ask a question because Lee Min-gi said alone. He asked his parents to come to cheer him up. Lee Min-gi answered that his parents had died and he only had his younger brother. Hearing that, Kim Seo-joon remembered his life, which was more or less the same as that. Kim Seo-joon then said that he was right. They were partners in the same situation and let Lee Min-gi follow him. After a while of walking, even though Lee Min-gi couldn't follow Kim Seo-joon's movements, he tried his best to follow him. Lee Min-gi couldn't believe Kim Seo-joon didn't hesitate at all in his steps. He was too confident to walk without thinking about anything. It's like he knows the way out. But he thought, how could it be true? Without them knowing, they end up in a stalemate. But when Kim Seo-joon pushes through the wall, a door opens, and the first winner announcement appears. Kim Seo-joon set a new record for getting out of the maze with a time of 27 minutes and 12 seconds. The previous record was 1 hour, 4 minutes, 34 seconds. Hearing the announcement made the audience wonder who had successfully cleared. The people watching were shocked because it wasn't Lee Junhwan who came out, including Park Seo-yoon. Kim Seo-joon casually walked out. He felt disappointed because he didn't meet any monsters until the end. Lee Min-gi, just had a cadet from a middle-of-nowhere academy named Dream, could finish so fast. At first the cadets thought that Lee Junhwan would be in first place, but it turned out that he was in third place. Even their time difference is very far. As usual, Kim Seo-joon ignored them and focused on his lecture. Lee Junhwan then suddenly approached Kim Seo-joon, which made everyone silent. Cadet Lee Junhwan kept his eyes on Kim Seo-joon. He just smiled as he said he was just a lucky person, then left Kim Seo-joon. Hearing that, the others started to assume that Kim Seo-joon was just lucky. A tournament committee then entered the room and announced the second round of matches would be a one-on-one tournament. As this match was the fourth Remember League competition, for the sake of sportsmanship, weapons could not be inserted at all, or they would be disqualified. However, where body strengthening is allowed. In addition, if the judges declare a cadet no longer able to fight, the committee will forcibly stop the fight. The number of people who pass in the first round is 32 people. In one-on-one tournaments, it was natural to start at 32. But before the committee left, he would notify his dueling partners. But the cadet said he wanted to withdraw from the tournament. Elsewhere, Park Seo-yoon, who was waiting outside for the next round, didn't expect Kim Seo-jun to win the first round. Due to that, his disguise was almost discovered by the other onlookers, but, as he was walking around, his attention was attracted by some people who were arguing. That person was angry because the tournament started from the semifinals while 32 cadets passed the first round. The man explained most of his cadets had resigned. He then suggested that the audience who just gave up gambling because Lee Junhwan was there would definitely win this tournament. Suddenly there was someone wearing a black hooded robe who fought for $1 million for Kim Seo-jun. The committee and the people there tried to explain that Kim Seo-jun didn't have any special abilities in response to their words. Park Seo-yoon, who saw this, could only wonder who the black hooded person was. Kim Seo-jun got confused. A while ago, many of the cadets there had resigned, and this time rumors spread that Cadet Lee Junhwan didn't care anymore, even though this was a competition he would make his opponent handicap. Even if it's a match, if the cadets make a mistake and get injured, no one will be held responsible. In this match, there are many rubber championed. Thus, the cadets decided it was safest to resign. After the cadets withdrew, only 5 people remained in the first round. There is Kim Seo-jun against Jang Do-kul. The second is Lee Junhwan against Lee Min-gi, and Lee Chulmin automatically passed. Lee Min-gi, who looked nervous, panicked because the tournament was about to start. Lee Min-gi will fight Lee Junhwan. Kim Seo-jun said that if Lee Min-gi only thinks of losing before even fighting, he should just resign. But Lee Min-gi can't seem to do that. A moment later, because the time to prepare had run out, the cadet whose name was mentioned earlier was required to step into the arena. Before Kim Seo-jun stepped out, Lee Min-gi asked him if he wasn't nervous at all. Kim Seo-jun said not at all. He also said if Lee Min-gi doesn't want to resign, then fight until the end. Kim Seo-jun finally went to the match arena. Arriving at the arena, he was immediately introduced by the host as the newest record holder for the Dungeon Maze. And his opponent was the Gochuri Academy giant axe, Jang Do-kul. Jang Do-kul provoked Kim Seo-jun. He said Kim Seo-jun was just lucky to get away from the first round, but this time luck would end up in his hands. But Kim Seo-jun responded to the provocation casually. It was even Jang Do-kul who was swayed by his provocation. When the match started, Jang Do-kul immediately lunged at Kim Seo-jun. At the same time, Lee Min-gi looked nervous in the waiting room. Even though Kim Seo-jun's match had already started, he couldn't worry about anyone else because he had to face Cadet Lee Junhwan. Later, he remembered Kim Seo-jun's earlier words. His body was shaking. The other one was a cadet from a famous academy, while he was just a cadet from an unknown academy. Lee Min-gi also thought about resigning, but the cheers of the audience outside, plus the announcement from the MC, surprised cadets Lee Junhwan and Lee Chulmin. Because Kim Seo-jun's match against Cadet Jang Do-kul had ended in an instant. Lee Min-gi, who witnessed that, got up from his seat. He had his expression like saying that he too could win like Kim Seo-jun. Of course, Cadet Lee Junhwan couldn't hold back his annoyance. Back to a while before. When the match between Kim Seo-jun and Jang Do-kul started, Jang Do-kul kept attacking Kim Seo-jun with his big axe. But Kim Seo-jun was able to easily dodge his attacks. Jang Do-kul didn't understand because he kept attacking, but it was useless because he couldn't hit his opponent. When Jang Do-kul got too irritated and exposed his defenses for a stronger attack, Kim Seo-jun easily disarmed him. With that, the match is over. Kim Seo-jun looked disappointed because the match had not really had an impact on improving his lecture. He hopes a lot in the match against other cadets. But because many people had given up, things dashed all his hopes. If it continues like this, the remaining free pass time will continue to decrease, and Kim Seo-jun will not be able to finish teaching his lecture. Kim Seo-jun has to rack his brain so he can keep studying his lectures. After the match was over, Kim Seo-jun returned to the waiting room. There he was greeted by Lee Min-gi, who looked very excited. After watching Kim Seo-jun's match, the committee again announced the second match and asked the cadets who would be competing to head to the arena. When his name was mentioned, Lee Junhwan arrogantly told Lee Min-gi to step aside. Kim Seo-jun also stared intently at Lee Junhwan, who left him. Lee Min-gi then said when in the labyrinth, Kim Seo-jun said that they had a resemblance. He didn't understand the reason, but when Lee Min-gi saw Kim Seo-jun, he felt something kinship towards him. That's why when Kim Seo-jun defeated Jung Duk-shul, Lee Min-gi felt happy as if he was the winner. But he was also jealous. He is just a piece of shit stuck to the wall. He didn't have any talent, but he wanted to be an older brother that his little sister could be proud of. Not long after, the committee summoned Lee Min-gi. Watching Lee Min-gi leave with a smile, he said, "Let's meet in the finals." Arriving at the arena when Lee Min-gi calmed himself down, Lee Jun-hwan kept belittling him, thinking all those things this ornament really bothered him. He already felt ashamed of being forced to participate in this trash tournament. Plus, now he had to fight a boy. Lee Jun-hwan had guessed it without the need to fight. His opponent was a good-for-nothing who only knew how to feed creatures at the bottom of the food chain to a predator like himself. Lee Min-gi is nothing but food. Lee Jun-hwan intends to be aware of his position. He should have placed first in both the first and second rounds of this tournament. That's a natural thing with a level that is much different than the flies that have participated in the competition so far. But seeing his opponent standing confidently as if he could win against him made Cadet Lee Jun-hwan even more irritated. After the committee explained the rules of the match between Lee Min-gi and Lee Jun-hwan, the match began. Lee Jun-hwan immediately attacked Lee Min-gi all out. He intended to finish it in an instant. He attacked Lee Min-gi with fast and precise attacks. Lee Min-gi was pressed and kept defending with an attack. Lee Jun-hwan then managed to attack Lee Min-gi and sent him flying backwards. At that time, Lee Min-gi thought he would definitely lose. But it's not a question of whether or not he can win. He was absolutely no match for him. He just wanted to be an older brother that his younger sibling could be proud of. But if he cannot do anything. He then remembered Kim Seo-jun and Lee Min-gi getting up again for a moment. He used all his strength so that at least his attacks hit Lee Jun-hwan even if it was only a fingertip. But Lee Jun-hwan easily dismissed Lee Min-gi. But what surprised Lee Jun-hwan was that Lee Min-gi's attack had hit his face. Plus, he heard comments from the audience who laughed at him acting cool after defeating insects like Lee Min-gi. They said that Lee Jun-hwan wasn't that great. Lee Jun-hwan's anger exploded. He told the referee he would resign, then kicked Lee Min-gi. Lee Jun-hwan let out all his anger. He says he can't keep up with a place full of nonsense like this. The reason why this tournament is so sad is because the organizers are a problem. And that's why they are only a level 4 league. Seeing Lee Jun-hwan like that, the referee tried to stop him by threatening to take action. But Lee Jun-hwan instead challenged action because he had already resigned. He then asked if they weren't upset watching an insect kid like this screw up trying to become a hunter. Lee Jun-hwan then stepped on Lee Min-gi's head. But when Lee Jun-hwan was about to attack Lee Min-gi with his sword, he was stopped by Kim Seo-jun, who was suddenly in front of him. He said he was waiting because they would fight in the final later. But seeing his behavior that had gone too far, he said that he really deserved to be beaten up right now. Kim Seo-jun told Lee Jun-hwan to get rid of his foot, which was stepping on Lee Min-gi. However, Lee Jun-hwan was stubborn and forced Kim Seo-jun to swing his spear. That way, Lee Jun-hwan would move backwards, and Kim Seo-jun could save Lee Min-gi. Kim Seo-jun asked if you like to belittle other people like this. What's your problem? How can you step on someone like that? Lee Jun-hwan replied that he did it because that disgusting pest was being arrogant. Kim Seo-jun said you don't think pests should dream. Lee Jun-hwan replied that he just found out that nowadays people like to say things that don't make sense like that. You mean you can do anything by working hard? The spectators there began to be noisy to see the chaos. They wonder why the organizers are silent. On the other hand, the organizers didn't stop it because their superiors asked for it. Kim Seo-jun also looked worried seeing the current situation. Lee Jun-hwan said he didn't think Kim Seo-jun would trouble him like this. It tells you one thing in this world: only strong people will succeed. A world where they can survive by destroying others. There's no time to dream, there's only those who succeed, and those who fail. That's how it works. Hearing that chatter, actually Kim Seo-jun used to have the same way of thinking as Lee Jun-hwan. During those 9 long years in preparation for becoming a pro hunter, he also faced a lot of reality. Kim Seo-jun even hates himself, who has neither money nor talent, for being a useless person. Hard work only helps to balance things out, never improves things. Few are sadder when hanging on to something that can't be accomplished with hard work. How many times had he thought that things would be different? Just give up and try to do something new. Kim Seo-jun then ordered the referee to help Lee Min-gi. He stepped forward to approach Lee Jun-hwan. Kim Seo-jun said so. Why is it not something that can be judged easily and taken for granted? Even though the referee had warned him, Kim Seo-jun still lunged at Lee Junhwan. Seeing that, Lee Junhwan said that he made him laugh. He swallows attacks well. Kim Seo-jun realized that people were nominating Lee Junhwan without reason. Lee Junhwan is really strong. Instead of thinking about other things, Kim Seo-jun focused himself. Don't go against the grain and just trust the sense. The referee again tried to stop them, but seeing Lee Junhwan's anger, they didn't dare approach him. Lee Junhwan realized that Kim Seo-jun's gaze was not that of an insect, but that of a predator just like him. Lee Junhwan continued to attack Kim Seo-jun, but he felt that Kim Seo-jun seemed to be getting stronger. When they fought, at one point Kim Seo-jun managed to push Lee Junhwan. His mistake made Lee Junhwan take out the sword aura on his sword. He intended to kill Kim Seo-jun. At that instant, seeing that, the organizer panicked. Kim Seo-jun also felt that he would not win if it was like this. Kim Seo-jun thought he should run away. That was all he could do now, but he couldn't do it. Though his brain knew he had to stay away. He felt that if he ran, he would deny everything he had done so far. Amidst his confusion, Instructor Xiang Yu appeared in his memory. He told me about himself first. Stories of the Chu kingdom being besieged from all directions. One of his students asked where did he get the courage to go through the enemy alone. At that time, his student wanted to know, isn't it obvious at that time who would win? It's true the outcome was set, there wasn't much that could be done about it, and it was hard to make it out alive. He could admit it now, it was the first time he became desperate. He was scared. But what was even scarier was the possibility of losing. Even so, Xiang Yu's instructor continued to fight. She asks if he understands the reason. He just wanted to fight, because it was something he had to do even though he was sure to lose. Keep fighting like crazy and just believe you can win. Even if you have the power to lift a mountain, you cannot win without that belief. It was Instructor Xiang Yu's bravest fighting spirit. Xiang Yu fought back and eventually lost. But that's how it was. He earned the title of Hegemon King. Power that can lift mountains and can overthrow the world. Kim Seo-jun regained his confidence and charged forward. When the attacks of the two of them collided, after the moon the smoke cleared. Lee Junhwan immediately collapsed. However, Kim Seo-jun remained standing. The audience cheered for Kim Seo-jun's victory. Park Seo-yoon was surprised because 2 weeks ago, Kim Seo-jun struggled against a sword that was strengthened by aura. But now he was able to wield the aura of the spear. A moment later appeared the presence of the black-cloaked person he had seen before at the gambling establishment. But that person was surprised to see Kim Seo-jun win. His reaction was too exaggerated, as if some natural law had been violated. But when Park Seo-yoon wanted to see that person again, he was not there. In the afternoon, Kim Seo-jun was seen walking very lethargically. Because he has been disqualified in that tournament, although Lee Junhwan's actions were excessive, but he had declared his exit from the tournament, and because Kim Seo-jun intervened even though it was not an official match. The referee also warned him several times, but Kim Seo-jun ignored him. What he did was against the tournament regulations, so he would also be disqualified, and the sword aura that he released was proof that he intended to kill his opponent. Chances are he won't be sued for it, but the association will ban him from taking the Pro Hunter exam for the next 5 years. In the end, Lee Chulman won the tournament by default. Lee Min-gi ended up in second place while Jang Duk-chul miraculously appeared in third. Luckily, the progress of his lecture increased markedly, so Kim Seo-jun still didn't mind it. He also felt a strange power that he felt. At that time, maybe because the lecture had passed 50%. He also checked whether he could take a new lecture. His journey was then interrupted because of Park Seo-yoon. He asked if his body was okay after fighting like that. Kim Seo-jun explained that he was fine. He also apologized for being disqualified, even though he could have won. Park Seo-yoon understood that and said it was okay. What Kim Seo-jun did was the right thing. Park Seo-yoon had thought that currently Kim Seo-jun was not well, because he thought Kim Seo-jun was interested in the prize money. So Park Seo-yoon thought that he was mistaken. But Park Seo-yoon's words made Kim Seo-jun remember his main goal of participating in the tournament, and he didn't end well either. Out of curiosity, Park Seo-yoon asked what the money was for. Kim Seo-jun said that he wanted to buy the weapon he was after, but he thought it was okay. Kim Seo-jun couldn't say that he didn't regret it, but he felt he would have regretted it even more if he hadn't interfered earlier. Kim Seo-jun believes that his financial problems will soon be resolved by themselves. In the middle of their conversation, Lee Min-gi approached them. He asks with a serious face, "Can she become like him if she keeps trying hard?" Hearing that question, Kim Seo-jun replied that the road might be difficult. To be honest, Lee Min-gi's talent is very far behind other pro hunters, especially nowadays. Of course, many say that you can achieve everything with hard work, but this world is too cruel for people who rely on dreams and ideas. Kim Seo-jun explained not to focus too much on becoming a hunter. Maybe he is proficient in something else. And there's no reason to be gloomy either, because he's still young. Lee Min-gi's face brightened again. He says that's true too, and also he didn't ask to spoil the mood. He just wanted to say his final farewell. He then thanked. Kim Seo-jun then gave advice to Lee Min-gi before he left, not to be influenced by other people. Don't let them tell you can't do it. Lee Min-gi has no talent, and that fact is absolute. That's what people would say when they saw her. They will say you will fail, that you will never succeed. But Kim Seo-jun warned that someone's opinion about him might not necessarily come true. If he wants something, then do it. That's all he needs. With that, they separated. Park Seo-yoon can't believe Kim Seo-jun has a side like that. He also joked that now he has fans. Kim Seo-jun also said he thought a student would be better for him than fans. He told him that he should have taken the time to introduce his academy to Lee Min-gi earlier. Hearing that, Park Seo-yoon felt touched. He then said to buy a gun for Kim Seo-jun. Park Seo-yoon told him to consider it in lieu of a scholarship. There was a workshop that his grandfather often visited, so Park Seo-yoon took him there. Kim Seo-jun also said that he would choose an expensive weapon. Elsewhere, there is someone who is looking for their leader. Even though it was the leader who told the guard not to let anyone in because he was meditating, that person still entered the leader's room. That person was called Seo Moonchul, Swordstar's aide. The leader's words gave off such an intense aura that Seo Moonchul was unable to move. But despite being pressured by such a person, Seo Moonchul still reported the information he knew that Park Seo-yoon was participating in the academy tournament that had just been held. Hearing that, the leader dispelled his aura. Seo Moonchul then explained that they were still gathering details, but it seems Park Seo-yoon has recruited new students. Seo Moonchul said that he could take care of this. However, the leader got up from his seat and said he should see firsthand what kind of disciple his grandson had accepted. That leader is the Sword Star, Park Min-chul. Currently, Kim Seo-jun is finishing his lecture assignment. But after the task was completed, he was annoyed because Park Seo-yoon kept staring at him. Hearing this, Park Seo-yoon joked about yesterday's incident while they were at the workshop. Kim Seo-jun said he really wanted to change his weapon, but when he arrived at the workshop, he didn't even buy anything because he was too picky. Yesterday's incident still makes Park Seo-yoon very upset to this day. Kim Seo-jun reasoned that he just thought it was too much. But according to Park Seo-yoon, he could tell if Kim Seo-jun was not the type of person who would say no or care what other people said. He was sure Kim Seo-jun would usually accept it. Actually, Kim Seo-jun just couldn't be satisfied with ordinary weapons after seeing a weapon made by one of the Transcended. Previously, instead of buying weapons at the workshop, Kim Seo-jun had intended to ask Park Seo-yoon for $20,000 to buy additional money. But the Transcendent Web Academy's price went up according to causality. So Kim Seo-jun thought it was useless to ask Park Seo-yoon for money. Park Seo-yoon then asked what kind of mana was used by Kim Seo-jun. Because in order to control mana well, Kim Seo-jun must learn mana cultivation techniques. Seeing before that Kim Seo-jun could defeat monsters, Park Seo-yoon was sure that Kim Seo-jun would also be able to control mana. And looking at Kim Seo-jun's previous fights, it wasn't like his cultivation level was low, but Park Seo-yoon had never seen Kim Seo-jun cultivate. Mana cultivation technique. It's a technique that allows you to use mana more efficiently. But there are many variations, and according to the level of efficiency, it is divided into low level and high level. Every hunter has their own special mana motivation technique, and they even patented it. That was the reason why previously Kim Seo-jun wanted to enter your expensive elite academy. He then asked if Park Seo-yoon taught the Sword Saint cultivation technique to the hunter at Dream Academy. Park Seo-yoon answered no because his grandfather was against it, but he pursued which cultivation technique he found himself. Kim Seo-jun could guess that Miss Seo would not teach motivational techniques given the current situation of her academy, but Kim Seo-jun was somewhat surprised to hear that Park Seo-yoon taught which cultivation technique he made himself. At first, Kim Seo-jun thought that Park Seo-yoon had no talent, but what Park Seo-yoon said was true. Mana cultivation is the basis for a hunter. Kim Seo-jun could also feel the difference between being able to cast mana or not when fighting Lee Junhwan. Since now that Kim Seo-jun had more free time, it seemed like it would be good to take up mana teachings. Because Kim Seo-jun seemed to be focused on thinking about that, Park Seo-yoon thought that the question was difficult to answer. Because Kim Seo-jun didn't want to answer, he left Kim Seo-jun. Realizing that Park Seo-yoon was leaving, Kim Seo-jun asked where he was going. Park Seo-yoon answered that he had some business to attend to. Kim Seo-jun also joked by saying what business he has. Park Seo-yoon got a little annoyed hearing that question. He then ordered Kim Seo-jun to lock the door if he wanted to leave before he returned. After Park Seo-yoon left, Kim Seo-jun again thought about which lecture he should take. He was curious when the mentor would come. He was sure he would be of great help. Currently, Kim Seo-jun is watching the new lecture from instructor Merlin Appa. After hearing his brief explanation, Kim Seo-jun received a daily task from Merlin to manifest 1,000 mana orbs. Kim Seo-jun immediately tried it. Thanks to the sense that he learned in Instructor Chiron's lecture, Kim Seo-jun can easily feel and control mana. But the problem was that he couldn't form it at all. While Kim Seo-jun was focused, Instructor Merlin helped him by explaining using mana was the same as connecting the world of your mind with the real world. If you take something you imagine and bring it out by fooling and convincing the world, make it come true as it follows the laws of nature. The prime example is a great power that is nowhere to be found, which investment becomes aura. And thanks to that, Kim Seo-jun can make mana, even though it doesn't count in his daily tasks because it's so small. While Kim Seo-jun was thinking about that, he was startled by a voice screaming at him. Kim Seo-jun realized that the person was his grandfather, Park Seo-yoon. Park Min-chul came there because he wanted to see who was the new student from his grandson's academy. But what was in the new student's hand, if his senses weren't wrong, it must be some mana. Condensed manifestation of mana. It is something difficult to do. Even though he looks stupid, but he has a different talent. Park Min-chul assumed there was only one reason why a talented person like him would join Dream Academy. It must be to take advantage of his grandson. Park Min-chul then released a very strong killing aura and asked who he really was. Kim Seo-jun politely introduced himself, then was a bit flattering. He asked if he had come to meet Park Seo-yoon. He then said what a shame. He just left on business. Park Min-chul was surprised by Kim Seo-jun for calling his granddaughter Nuna. But what surprised Park Min-chul the most was Kim Seo-jun, who could survive aura killing him. The killing intent that Park Min-chul exuded. If he wasn't an S-rank hunter, he would definitely be crippled. But Kim Seo-jun didn't feel that aura at all. He thought it might be due to the unwavering heart's effect. Park Min-chul kept asking what was the purpose of being in this academy. Someone with such talent would be welcome anywhere. So he asked what reason Kim Seo-jun approached his grandson. Park Min-chul threatened him to be honest. Park Min-chul drew closer to Kim Seo-jun with a stronger aura. Even though Kim Seo-jun had said there must be a big misunderstanding here, Park Min-chul drew his sword. Of course, Kim Seo-jun realized that and managed to avoid it. Elsewhere, Park Seo-yoon came to visit the main house where his grandfather usually resides. One of the servants said that his grandfather was away and did not know when he would be back. Park Seo-yoon was disappointed because he intended to talk about Kim Seo-jun with his grandfather. On the other hand, Kim Seo-jun was constantly asked by Park Min-chul what was the reason for coming here. Park Seo-yoon felt that he couldn't keep the students in his academy a secret because Kim Seo-jun had already participated in the academy tournament. Luckily, Seo's advisor came at that time. He immediately asked where his grandfather was. Hearing that, Seo Moonchul said coldly that his grandfather was going to his academy. Without further ado, Park Seo-yoon immediately ran. Park Seo-yoon didn't expect his grandfather to come so soon. Even though he had expected it no matter what, he couldn't let his grandfather meet Kim Seo-jun without him. At the Dream Academy, Kim Seo-jun couldn't believe that Park Min-chul could issue such a dangerous attack even if he just swung his sword without removing it from the scabbard. Kim Seo-jun felt that Park Min-chul meant to restrain him, not kill him. He wanted to still try to talk about the misunderstanding that was going on. But Park Min-chul said not only did it embody mana, but Kim Seo-jun also showed such moves, and he still wanted to say it was a misunderstanding. Kim Seo-jun kept trying to clear up the misunderstanding, but Park Min-chul wouldn't listen to what he said. Kim Seo-jun felt that he had said something wrong, but he had no idea what was going on. Currently, Park Min-chul is seriously dealing with it. But even so, Park Min-chul's movements didn't look like he wanted to kill him. Kim Seo-jun was definitely dead right after he realized his existence. Heaven above the Heaves, the Sword Saint. the person most similar to his ambition. Kim Seo-jun smiled because he felt this was a good opportunity for him. Park Min-chul noticed the change in the atmosphere around Kim Seo-jun. He had met countless hunters over the decades, but there was only one person whose eyes remained sharp even after facing him. Park Min-chul felt that Kim Seo-jun must have very great abilities. Park Min-chul immediately attacked Kim Seo-jun. But because Park Min-chul was fast for him, Kim Seo-jun was still able to withstand the attack, even though he couldn't feel or see the direction Park Min-chul's attack was coming from. Kim Seo-jun could sense it. Even though it was just an ordinary attack, it was at a level he couldn't fathom. But Kim Seo-jun is still curious about how far he can survive. Kim Seo-jun tried to attack Park Min-chul with a feint move, but Park Min-chul could read his movements easily. As a result, Kim Seo-jun bounced. At that time, Kim Seo-jun thought that this was not what he wanted. Something is missing. He can't let it end here, as this is his only chance, when he hasn't meant it. He only has this one chance. He had to end with one strike. But how? As Kim Seo-jun dodged Park Min-chul's attack, he recalled the teachings of his lecture. It was the best thing he could do right now. But his attack that hit Park Min-chul didn't have much effect. This time they argued. Park Min-chul called him an insolent brat, and finally Kim Seo-jun showed his true self. Kim Seo-jun also asked what he was talking about. Talking like this made him sicker, so he wondered when Park Seo-yun Nuna got here. When he heard Kim Seo-jun, who kept calling his grandson by his last name, Chiron's rationality ran out. He says, "Fine, if you really want it, I will introduce you personally. What is death?" Luckily, Park Seo-yun came on time and stopped them both. Park Seo-yun asked how it was. Kim Seo-jun answered that even though there were no serious injuries, it still hurt. Park Min-chul said just that, and Kim Seo-jun was already in pain, and you call yourself a man. Kim Seo-jun answered that gender had nothing to do with pain after being beaten by the Sword Saint. Park Min-chul was very upset to hear Kim Seo-jun's words, but Kim Seo-jun immediately hid behind Park Seo-yun. Park Seo-yun was surprised to realize that this was the first time he saw someone answering his grandfather's words. Kim Seo-jun continued to grumble. He asked at least explain first why he was beaten. Does being a swordsman make him do whatever you want? Before Park Min-chul answered Kim Seo-jun's question, Park Seo-yun apologized to Kim Seo-jun for having to go through all of this. Park Seo-yun lowered his head as a sign of sincere apology. He said he would explain later. Seeing those things, Kim Seo-jun understood what his apology meant. Kim Seo-jun left them with the excuse that he would check his wound at the hospital. Park Seo-yun then asked his grandfather to talk seriously. But even though he decided to speak, he couldn't even open his mouth when faced with his grandfather. Park Min-chul then said that Kim Seo-jun was suspicious and told him to stay away from him. Park Seo-yun immediately denied his grandfather's words and said he was not a suspicious person. Park Min-chul also asked, "What do you know? What do you know? You don't know anything, so do as I say." That sentence he always heard during his 31 years of life. With just a few words, his grandfather always rejected his opinion. Even within the Hunter Academy that he founded, he was not completely free from his grandfather. Park Min-chul was going to beat up the students who had just entered, and all the students couldn't stand it and finally left. Park Seo-yun knows why his grandfather did all that, and he also knows the motivations of the people who come to his academy. That's why he couldn't stop them from leaving this academy. However, Kim Seo-jun is different. He didn't want to let go. The two of them haven't even made a precious memento yet, and she doesn't have any special feelings for Kim Seo-jun yet. But Park Seo-yun has a strange feeling every time he looks at Kim Seo-jun. Maybe he still didn't have the answer by now, but maybe if he was with her a little longer he would find out. Taking out all his uniqueness so far, he didn't want to cover up his grandfather's words anymore. Why did he always have to do as his grandfather ordered him to do? This place was his academy, not his grandfather's. Park Min-chul said this is not the time to be sulking. You might not know how that person is. Before Park Min-chul finished his sentence, Park Seo-yun cut him off. He said, "If you do not know, so what?" He didn't know, that's why he wanted to know. He couldn't continue to live under his grandfather's shadow all his life. Anyway, Park Seo-yun doesn't want to. After spilling all his feelings, Park Seo-yun realized that he had snapped at his grandfather. He also apologized for that, and then left Park Min-chul. Park Seo-yun then said that this time he would not follow his grandfather's orders. After being abandoned by his grandson, Park Min-chul just looked dumbfounded. This was the first time his grandson had snapped at him like this. After losing his son Park, Minchul had to take care of Park Seo-yoon, who lost his father. Park Minchul decided he should at least be strong and be able to protect himself. That's the verdict. That's why Park Minchul was stubborn to him. Even though he disliked swordsmanship, Park Minchul continued to forcefully teach him, even though it is not a soft way. After restraining Park Seo-yoon for years, Park Minchul realized that their distance was getting further away, but Park Minchul deliberately ignored it. Park Minchul finally realized the consequences. Rebellion. Time flies. Kim Seo-joon is walking towards Dream Academy. On his way, he recalled the time yesterday. He thought he would die, but fortunately, he survived with some minor injuries. Even though the sword had restrained itself when fighting it. But if Park Seo-yoon was even a little late to stop it, maybe the story would be different. At this time, Kim Seo-joon just found out that Park Seo-yoon had a life story like that. Last night, Park Seo-yoon told him about his current situation and his relationship with his grandfather, as well as what happened to the previous students. Kim Seo-joon is pretty sure that, for example, Park Seo-yoon didn't say everything. But Kim Seo-joon already understood how Park Seo-yoon really felt and the reason why the Sword Saint beat him. It doesn't feel like Kim Seo-joon has arrived at Dream Academy. Before entering, Kim Seo-joon thought he should make the Sword Saint apologize, so things like before won't happen again. The increase in lecture increased after being beaten by the Sword Saint before, making Kim Seo-joon tempted. Because of his improvement, after he entered, he was immediately greeted by a voice that surprised him. Kim Seo-joon was greeted by Park Minchul, who had been sitting cross-legged waiting for him. Kim Seo-joon immediately thought whether he would be beaten up again today. It turned out that Park Minchul invited Kim Seo-joon to talk, and Kim Seo-joon explained everything from the start. Park Minchul thought that it seems like Kim Seo-joon is not lying, but why isn't his strength and talent like the average cadet? Not to mention that he didn't know why every time he saw Kim Seo-joon, his blood pressure immediately rose. When Park Minchul was thinking about that, Kim Seo-joon said if there is nothing more to talk about, can he leave now? He just wanted to practice. Hearing that, Park Minchul said that he could see him practicing. He could find out what Kim Seo-joon was hiding. Park Minchul was still suspicious after seeing Kim Seo-joon's rehearsal. Park Minchul can confirm one thing, that Kim Seo-joon is insane. He just stared at his cell phone screen for hours, plus the cell phone doesn't turn on. Park Minchul asked Kim Seo-joon if he was meditating. Kim Seo-joon answered lazily, "That's how it is." Park Minchul explained that meditation is good practice, but what he did was a little too much. He should always remember that the purpose of meditation is to strengthen his mind and heart. But Kim Seo-joon looks indifferent, which makes Park Minchul think whether Kim Seo-joon is not interested in his teachings. Impossible, he thought. Park Minchul then offered that if Kim Seo-joon wanted, he could train him a little. Kim Seo-joon asked if he would train him himself. Hearing Kim Seo-joon's answer made Park Minchul proud. He already suspected that Kim Seo-joon was just selling him high. But Kim Seo-joon again said he was not really interested in his teachings. He then told Park Minchul to leave because he had disturbed his practice. Park Minchul was petrified again because of Kim Seo-joon's words. A moment later, Park Seo-yoon came, but he didn't expect his grandfather to be there first. He thought his grandfather would come to beat the boy who was sitting back. But Park Minchul asked him if his brain wasn't right. She didn't want to be taught by her Sword Saint self. His grandfather explained that everything he had been doing was very strange. Park Seo-yoon didn't expect that his grandfather would ask that, especially since his grandfather said he wanted to teach Kim Seo-joon. However, because he was used to it, he didn't want to be a problem, and immediately approached Kim Seo-joon, who was focused on his lecture. Seeing his grandson's closeness to Kim Seo-joon, Park Minchul thought that he didn't like that boy. He just said normal things, but his grandson enjoyed it so much that the smile on his face never disappeared. Was it really fun talking to the boy? Park Minchul just remembered that he had never seen his grandson laugh like this before. The expression that his grandson showed was always somber and dark. But right now in front of him, his grandson could express that serene expression. Park Minchul got pissed off. He thought Kim Seo-joon was after his precious grandson. Suddenly, Seo Advisor came. He conveyed an important message to Park Minchul that the Order of Truth asked to meet him. But Park Minchul said that it was not important. If they do have something they want from him, tell them to go see it themselves. Advisor Seo said Mr. Kalia asked him directly. Hearing that name, Park Minchul flinched a little. Seo Moonchul continued. Mr. Kalia also added another request. He asked if he could meet someone named Kim Seo-joon. Everyone immediately stared at Kim Seo-joon. With a stupid face, he asked if he wanted to meet her. Park Min-chul immediately asked if Kim Seo-jun might be a member of the Order of Truth. Otherwise, how could they recognize Kim Seo-jun? Because he had been accused like that, he replied that he also did not know why that person could know him. Park Seo-yoon then said maybe because of that. Some time ago at the Convention Academy's gambling venue, he saw a suspicious man wearing a black robe. Could that person be involved? Park Min-chul said that even though the man was involved with the Order of Truth, as his grandson said, it was still unusual. There was no way Kalia would be interested in such a small thing. Kim Seo-jun didn't know anything about it either. She asks, should he go to meet her? It will be troublesome. Kim Seo-jun's words surprised Park Min-chul, Seo Moon-chul, and they explained the Order of Truth. Among them were the 7 apostles who were honored like a governor. Mr. Kalia is a potential successor to the currently vacant position of Apostle of Chastity. Normally, there's no way someone as important as that could ask an ordinary person like Kim Seo-jun to come see him. But Kim Seo-jun asked, so what? He's just a stranger he doesn't know? Let me just practice, he said. They think it's true. Park Min-chul then said, maybe it was because of this that Mr. Kalia was highly respected. He told that actually Mr. Kalia had predicted Kim Seo-jun would refuse his invitation, and he told him to deliver this message. If Kim Seo-jun refuses, if Kim Seo-jun just wants to come, he will give you IDR 100,000. Kim Seo-jun was curious about how that person could know that he needed $100,000. Order of Truth. They do not believe in man-made gods. They are a religious order that serves truth as its god. People who wear mysterious veils called the Grand Voice. 7 apostles who are the main mover of the order. They claim that their words are the truth, words from God himself. 100 years ago, they were still considered a heretical cult. During the Cataclysm, they teamed up with many heroes and played an important role in returning peace to humanity, which allowed them to grow rapidly. And among all that, the most decisive part is the giant monster conquering Berserk. At a time when people started to think that the end of the Cataclysm was near, the monster that suddenly appeared was so powerful that the combined army of all the world's heroes could do nothing against it. The situation was so chaotic that many people considered it a second cataclysm. The ones who had subdued the Berserk monsters were the Grand Voice and the 7 apostles. They are the most important aspect of ending the cataclysm. In the present, at a hotel on the outskirts of Seoul, Kim Seo-jun arrives accompanied by Park Min-chul. Kim Seo-jun thought that seeing how important this person was, the place was quite simple. After talking to the guard, they both went straight inside. On his way, Kim Seo-jun thought what Park Seo-yoon said was true, and the man he saw in the arena was related to the Order of Truth. So he must have said that the amount of money was from the tournament prize he failed to get. Or he's just guessing the numbers to make himself come. But still, that didn't explain why he was watching her and why he wanted to meet her. Did he know anything about himself? Or did he know anything about the Transcendent Academy? Kim Seo-jun will confirm after meeting him. Didn't realize they both had arrived at his room. The person who escorted them said if they wait a bit, Mr. Kalia will meet him in this room. Park Min-chul had expected it to be like this. There was no way that person would be waiting for them. Kim Seo-jun asked if Park Min-chul knew Kalia. Park Min-chul said this is the first time he met her. Kim Seo-jun thought Park Min-chul was close to those people because Park Min-chul seemed to respect him. Park Min-chul said they had indeed talked on the phone several times, but this was the first time he had met her. Park Min-chul has indeed met Apostle, but he has never met his successor. Kim Seo-jun forgot that Park Min-chul was a sword saint, a hero who participated in the Cataclysm. He then asked what about Grand Voice. Park Min-chul said from what he knew, the first and last time he showed himself was during the Berserk subjugation. He had never met Grand Voice before. Park Min-chul only saw him from a distance. Not long after, someone entered the room. The guy says, nice to meet you guys. This is the first time they have met in person. Park Min-chul replied that he only called them here, but he himself made them wait. That person was Park Min-chul, the successor of the Apostle of Chastity. Park Min-chul finally appeared. After a while, Park Min-chul and Kim Seo-jun waited in his room. Park Min-chul was a bit annoyed, because even though it was Kalia who invited the two of them, he made them wait instead. Kalia just smiled, hearing Park Min-chul's chatter. He reasoned that he would be happy if Park Min-chul saw his tardiness as his way to purify his body and mind in order to properly convey the words of the gods. Kalia also introduced herself to Kim Seo-jun. He was a follower of the Order of Truth who spread the word of his god. as well as a person who followed the path of chastity. But when Kim Yeon wanted to introduce himself, Kalia already knew his name. Seeing Kim Seo-jun, who was surprised, Kalia explained that she felt they had to clear up the misunderstanding before they got to the heart of the conversation. Kalia explained, when Kim Seo-jun participated in an academic battle before, one of their followers was watching him. That person praised Kim Seo-jun so much that he became interested and wanted to see with his own eyes how great Kim Seo-jun was. Therefore, he invited Kim Seo-jun here. But Kim Seo-jun was still suspicious, whether only because of that reason Kalia had an interest in him, and asked what was the real purpose of him inviting him. There was no way Kalia had invited herself there for one petty reason like that. Kalia understood Kim Seo-jun's concern, and smiled. Kalia asked permission first to sit before he explained. His true purpose in inviting the two of them was actually, Kalia hoped that the Sword Saint would accompany him on a dungeon reconnaissance. But it seems Park Min-chul doesn't want to do such troublesome things. He didn't understand why he had to go with him. While sipping her tea, Kalia said that Park Min-chul himself knew that it wasn't over. Park Min-chul was shocked to hear Kalia's words. Park Min-chul asked what he meant by saying that. Kalia explained that there was a report regarding distortion in one of the dungeons in Korea. He felt that the Sword Saint really understood what this event meant. Kim Seo-jun, who was there, only listened to their conversation carefully. Park Min-chul told him not to talk about such nonsense. But Kalia cut her off and said that the Order of Truth had decided that there was a reason to check the dungeon. Park Min-chul was silent for a moment and locked eyes with Kalia. Park Min-chul concluded so that was the reason why Kalia came to Korea. Because at the same time, Kalia could strengthen her position as a successor. Kalia smiled, hearing Park Min-chul's conclusion. He said as he expected, the Sword Saint could not be fooled. Park Min-chul, who had already guessed it, said stating that it was the decision of the Order of Truth without the slightest doubt, was not comforting at all. Then Kalia asked if Park Min-chul was willing to help her. Park Min-chul said it depended on what Kalia could give him. But according to Kalia, it looks like the Sword Saint who doesn't need help from him. And also Park Min-chul doesn't lack anything. Suddenly Kalia remembered something. He recalled that he had heard that Park Min-chul's granddaughter founded a hunter academy. Maybe the Order of Truth could. Before Kalia finished his sentence, Park Min-chul's expression changed. It didn't feel like he was releasing his killing intent. Kim Seo-jun, who was there, could not move his body. His whole body went numb. This was the first time he felt Park Min-chul's killing intent when he seriously wanted to kill someone. Park Min-chul glared at Kalia and said, once again, if he tries to involve Park Seo-yun again, he will not let it go. Seeing Park Min-chul's anger, Kalia couldn't say anything but apologized for his mistake. Other than that, he didn't have anything else to offer him. So Kalia intends that she will fulfill one request from Park Min-chul. Park Min-chul regained his composure and said it was funny how Kalia told him to trust her when she could pretend not to know the deal. Kalia offered that if Park Min-chul wanted, he could swear on the name of the Order of Truth. Seeing his seriousness, Park Min-chul said this alone would not be the determining factor for the apostle's seat. Kalia said he didn't care if Park Min-chul thought what this was, but whether Park Min-chul can look away after knowing the situation. Finally, Park Min-chul agreed. If Kalia swore in the name of the Church of Truth, he would provide aid for her. Park Min-chul and Kalia also performed a vow of truth ritual in front of Kim Seo-jun. After finishing her business with Park Min-chul, Kalia told Kim Seo-jun that she would be honest. The Order of Truth wanted to sponsor him, but Kim Seo-jun said he had joined an academic. Kalia explained that they did not ask Kim Seo-jun to leave his academy. When Kim Seo-jun was active, they wanted to help him in areas that his academy couldn't help him with. Kim Seo-jun asked then if he accepts this sponsorship offer, what should I give? Kalia smiled and said they didn't help Kim Seo-jun because they expected something in return from him. A relationship between the Order of Truth and Kim Seo-jun is more than enough. Even if Kim Seo-jun refused it, the Order of Truth would not do anything. But Kim Seo-jun thought how could it just like that? Even if they said that, they would definitely ask for something in return no matter what. Kim Seo-jun said to be honest, this is not an attractive proposal. But if Kalia answered one question from him honestly, Kim Seo-jun would consider it. Kalia was curious and said, please ask. When Kim Seo-jun wanted to ask, he thought of something. Will Kalia answer his questions honestly just because he asked her to? However, if Kalia refused to answer or gave a complicated answer, it would be impossible for her to notice. Seeing Kalia waiting for her question while smiling, Kim Seo-jun was even more confused. It would be strange if he let it be, and just like that. Kim Seo-jun then took his smartphone. Then he showed his smartphone right in front of Kalia's face. She asks, what is he seeing now? Kalia looked confused by Kim Seo-jun's sudden behavior like that. Kalia glanced at her smartphone screen for a moment, on Kim Seo-jun's smartphone, currently playing Siddhartha Gautama's lecture. Confused by that, Kalia asked what that meant. Kalia felt that the question that Kim Seo-jun asked was quite strange. But according to Kim Seo-jun, it was not a difficult question to answer. But Kalia felt it was a very difficult question for her. Hearing Kalia say that, Kim Seo-jun took his smartphone back. There was nothing that could be done if Kalia would not provide the answer. Suddenly Kalia says, a black screen. He could only see a completely black screen and asked if this answer was enough for Kim Seo-jun. Kalia continues, so would you consider sponsorship? Kim Seo-jun then closed his eyes. He smiles and says he will refuse the offer. Some time passed after that. That night Kalia was staring out of a window in his building. He asked his subordinates how was he. He said that he did not see any distortion. Kalia asked again in a more pressing tone, are you sure about what you saw? He also convinced Kalia that he could swear on behalf of the Order of Truth. He was absolutely certain of it. Kalia thinks Kim Seo-jun is honestly nothing special about him. Even if he was special, it would only be at the level of a cadet. Even so, Kalia was a little taken aback when she suddenly held her smartphone in front of her face and asked if she could see something. He felt an uneasy feeling. His subordinates suggested that maybe it would be better to report this to another apostle. But according to Kalia, don't do that. They would watch over him for a while. The top priority right now was the distortion in the dungeon. Kalia then asked what happened to the other heroes. His underling explained apart from the Dark Saints and Soul Saints, he had contacted all of them. As Kalia knew, because the two men were never seen. Kalia recalled Kim Seo-jun's behavior when he held out his smartphone. He thought they had never been seen. Elsewhere, Kim Seo-jun and Park Min-chul were on their way home. Park Min-chul stopped in his tracks and asked why he refused his offer. Kim Seo-jun said this disgusted him. Kim Seo-jun thought he wasn't sure about the others from the Order of Truth, but at least he was sure that Kalia had no connection with the transcendent academic. Even so, he does not want any kindness from someone who hides his goals. Park Min-chul asked, so that means Park Seo-yoon's academy doesn't disgust him? Kim Seo-jun said of course. Where else could he find an honest person like Park Seo-yoon? Kim Seo-jun then said, can he ask something? Does that mean there was a distortion in a dungeon? Park Min-chul was silent for a moment. Then he explained that it means that magic power is distorted. When that happened, the estimated difficulty of a dungeon at the time of its creation would be different from the actual difficulty. The estimated difficulty level of a dungeon at the time of its creation would differ from the actual difficulty level. Distortions like that have lots of ripple effects, but most of them are usually the ones that cause sudden boosts or premature dungeon breaks. It is a phenomenon that is rarely found these days. But during the Cataclysm, it was something that happened a lot. Kim Seo-jun kept remembering hearing the last sentence from Kalia. He asked then what Kalia said was not over yet. Park Min-chul turned his body and told him not to worry. Kalia was just misunderstanding. The Cataclysm is over. But Kim Seo-jun was a bit surprised by Park Min-chul, who was walking in the opposite direction to the road leading to Dream Academy. Park Min-chul said, you don't need to know, and also an insolent child. If Kim Seo-jun does something suspicious to Park Seo-yoon, he won't just let it go. But Kim Seo-jun even made fun of him, and said that meant Park Min-chul acknowledged him by saying that. Park Min-chul was annoyed about that. That means I'll be watching you, stupid boy. Kim Seo-jun just kept on whining and saying he was lying. Isn't he getting further away from Park Seo-yoon because he continues to act like this? Park Min-chul couldn't hold back his frustration. His patience had broken. Seeing Park Min-chul, who was already angry to the point of clenching his fists as well as the aura coming out of his body, Kim Seo-jun immediately ran away. Park Min-chul only saw Kim Seo-jun, who was running away with his frustration that had reached its peak. When Kim Seo-jun arrived at Park Seo-yoon's academy. Upon entering his academy, Park Seo-yoon immediately greeted him. Kim Seo-jun came faster than he thought. He then asks what about his grandpa, as they said they both will come back together. Kim Seo-jun explained that he was coming here with him, but he immediately left. Kim Seo-jun assured that he said something to her. But what Park Seo-yoon was worried about didn't happen. Park Seo-yoon then asked if his grandfather's interference was bad enough, right? He was really sorry and said he should have told Kim Seo-joon from the start. Kim Seo-joon also said that the way the Sword Saint also conveyed about himself was wrong. But Kim Seo-joon didn't think he was a bad person. He could change it from now on. And if the situation got worse, Kim Seo-joon could take a few of his punches. Park Seo-yoon smiled and thanked Kim Seo-joon. But the atmosphere suddenly became awkward. To break the ice, Park Seo-yoon asked if Kim Seo-joon said he needed money. Kim Seo-joon was surprised by Park Seo-yoon's sudden words. Kim Seo-joon said it was true, but how could he know? Park Seo-yoon recalled the previous days. Kim Seo-joon definitely sings it every time. How could he not know? Kim Seo-joon stuttered. When did he act like that? Kim Seo-joon thinks that money is my most urgent problem. He used the 100,000 he received from Kalia to pay off his debt. Kim Seo-joon was thinking about many things in his head. Not long until the duration of the free pass ends. He had to buy a gun. He also wants to attend individual lectures. Seeing Kim Seo-joon, who was staring because of his own thoughts, Park Seo-yoon took his smartphone, then said that's why as long as Kim Seo-joon is not here, he looked for a way and found something suitable. He then showed his cell phone and showed an advertisement for a dungeon sweep contest. Park Seo-yoon then asked if his grandfather's Park Seo-yoon informs him that there will be a dungeon sweep contest. Park Seo-yoon explained that in outline it was a contest to clear an unfinished dungeon. This is because people don't want to raid dungeons that don't make money. Hearing Park Seo-yoon's explanation, Kim Seo-joon also understood that it made sense. During the Cataclysm, Awakeners used to have fighting spirit and a sense of solidarity. But now they are only after profits. Park Seo-yoon continued to explain that dungeons that are abandoned and don't make money are usually boring. When time passes, dungeons that haven't been raided will cause the monsters inside to escape via dungeon breaks. No matter how low the rank of the monsters would still be a danger to civilians. Initially, there was a special army of hunters from the government who handled this. But wasting the time of those extraordinary hunters on lowly dungeons was considered inefficient. In the end, the new method used by the government is this dungeon sweep contest. The majority of abandoned dungeons have a level that can be overcome by a cadet. Because the number of cadets is currently abundant, the government can use anyone, especially if they also mention this will help in the evaluation of the Hunter Academy. A tactic as clear as killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Park Seo-yoon then said that Kim Seo-joon would be able to win this contest easily and asked what he thought. The prize for first place is 300,000. Kim Seo-joon thought that besides the big prize, the contest focused on dungeon sweeps. He could also increase his lecture progress while doing raid. There is no reason for Kim Seo-joon not to come. Kim Seo-joon also told him that he would join. Park Seo-yoon already guessed about it, then he will register it. Although Kim Seo-joon had not asked about it, Park Seo-yoon had found the information beforehand. Mia thought Park Seo-yoon might have asked around to get that information. Just like the contention at that time, Kim Seo-joon didn't know what variables would be present. Meaning, he shouldn't take this contest lightly. This time Kim Seo-joon was determined to win it. Of course, at first Park Seo-yoon was used to it when he saw Kim Seo-joon thinking hard, even though he didn't know what Kim Seo-joon was doing. After a moment of thought, Kim Seo-joon asked Park Seo-yoon, "How does this contest work?" Park Seo-yoon explained that the contest would last 1 week, and when the time comes, the government will share a list of dungeon locations with the participants. After that, the participants can check the list. They can then order the dungeon they want to raid via an app, but the reserved dungeon has to be completed in 10 hours. In addition, participants can only order 1 dungeon at a time. Otherwise, the reservation will be cancelled. The system prevented one from ordering all of the dungeons at once. In general, the evaluation focuses on the number of dungeons Kim Seo-joon can swipe, how fast Kim Seo-joon was able to finish it. So speed is key. Park Seo-yoon then said there was a joke that said that the price of petrol was still much more expensive than what you get from that dungeon. But according to Kim Seo-joon, it looks like it will be a little difficult later. They still needed to take care of the monster corpses after the dungeon raid. But if speed is the key, it will be difficult. Park Seo-yoon was somewhat surprised by Kim Seo-joon's thoughts. He could guess the meaning of Kim Seo-joon's words. Park Seo-yoon asked to please don't think of it. Like he said earlier, the money that Kim Seo-joon earns from monster corpses is not much. Park Seo-yoon also asked if Kim Seo-joon didn't think about taking care of the monster corpses right away. Although there are no regulations against it, the amount of money is small. Kim Seo-joon said little by little. In time, it will become a hill. How could Kim Seo-jun let go of this opportunity, right? Park Seo-yoon could accept an excuse like that. But still, Kim Seo-jun had to win first to get the prize. But Kim Seo-jun persisted. That's why he said earlier that it would be difficult. Yes, in the end, the main goal of Kim Seo-jun is the prize money. So he felt he didn't need to be too thick. Because Kim Seo-jun did not know what the exact rules were, Kim Seo-jun asked again for the rules carefully. A few days later, the D-Day of the competition had arrived. Because Kim Seo-jun had made thorough preparations, his lecture progressed rapidly. But somehow, Chiron and Merlin didn't make any progress. It looks like Kim Seo-jun should do something different considering that there is a special change every 10% progress. While they were preparing, Park Seo-yoon checked again whether Kim Seo-jun had installed the application. Kim Seo-jun replied that he had already installed it and had checked all his needs. Yesterday, Park Seo-yoon also asked about the maid that Kim Seo-jun contacted before because he had not seen her there. Kim Seo-jun explained that I don't think so. Mr. is quite good at navigation matters. Kim Seo-jun wasn't kidding when he said he was better than the Sword Saint at navigation. Although it looks like it has its own charm. Not long after, Mr. Manchul, Kim Seo-jun's old friend who became a monster butcher, came. Kim Seo-jun and Park Seo-yoon immediately welcomed him. After serious pleasantries, Mr. Manchul immediately asked what he should do for him. Back to a few days earlier, Mr. Manchul received a call from Kim Seo-jun asking him to work with Kim Seo-jun in his contest. Kim Seo-jun wants Mr. Manchul to remove the monster corpses for him and act as his driver as well. Precisely, Kim Seo-jun would be transporting the monster corpses, and Mr. Manchul would be processing the monsters. Because that was what took so much time. Mr. Manchul felt that his bargain was not too bad. But he doubted that the two of them would not be enough because Kim Seo-jun said that speed was the key. If Kim Seo-jun wanted to take more rations himself, Manchul did not want to do it. However, Kim Seo-jun convinced Mr. Manchul that he really needed his help. Processing monster corpses that generate money requires special abilities. Kim Seo-jun can trust Mr. Manchul about that. Back in the present, a notification about a dungeon sweep has started. Kim Seo-jun immediately invited Mr. Manchul and said goodbye to Park Seo-yoon. When they were about to get into his car, Kim Seo-jun asked Mr. Manchul if he remembered the rules of the contest. Mr. Manchul replied that he remembered everything because Kim Seo-jun had explained it yesterday. So Kim Seo-jun need not worry. After hopping in his car, Kim Seo-jun explained the strategy they would use. Kim Seo-jun told that the purpose of this contest is to determine who can complete the most denden. In other words, speed is the most important thing. Therefore, there are two important aspects in this competition. The first is how fast you can finish the dungeon, and the second is how quickly you can arrive at a dungeon. Dungeons included in this contest mostly only have 1 or 2 star monsters. The time needed does depend on the dungeon. But for Kim Seo-jun, that is not important. That means the rest of how fast Kim Seo-jun can arrive at the dungeon location. Kim Seo-jun handed his smartphone to Mr. Manchul. He continued, "Those were all dungeon locations that were included in this contest. Kim Seo-jun wants Mr. Manchul to plan his navigation so that the time needed for it is as short as possible." Mr. Manchul to be surprised about that. But Kim Seo-jun convinced Mr. Manchul to be faster and more accurate than the GPS system, and they finally departed. We turn to a woman who looks sleepy. The woman was named Go Soo-jin, a supervisor who was sitting watching the participants who were about to enter the dungeon beside her. He just realized that the preparation who had just entered the dungeon was Kim Seo-jun from Dream Academy, an academy he had just heard of. Go Soo-jin thought that from what he could see of the academy, he thought Kim Seo-jun was an ordinary cadet. That means it took him about an hour to complete. He pinned the thought that Cadet Kim Seo-jun brought a companion. At first, Go Soo-jin thought they were cheating, so he was worried. But his companion said he would wait outside, so he let it go, because it doesn't break the rules. Go Soo-jin, who saw the companion's appearance, guessed whether he was a driver. When Go Soo-jin thought about that, the dungeon gate suddenly reacted. He was surprised when he saw Kim Seo-jun's head appear from his gate. Kim Seo-jun then told Mr. Manchul that he was finished and told him to get ready immediately. Mr. Manchul did not think Kim Seo-jun would be so fast. He hasn't even had time to finish his canned coffee. Seeing that Go Soo-jin stopped them on the grounds of bringing in outsiders as the raid was against its rules. But with a relaxed face, Kim Seo-jun replied that he also knew the rules. He tells Mr. Manchul to get ready, as he has already caught all the monsters. Go Soo-jin, who didn't believe in Kim Seo-jun, immediately entered his dungeon, and when he was in his dungeon, he was again surprised by the corpses of monsters scattered everywhere. Kim Seo-jun explained. He was again surprised when he saw Kim Seo-jun carrying his monster corpses, but Kim Seo-jun said he didn't need to pay attention to him. In Go Soo-jin's eyes, even carrying the monster's corpse looked strange. But when carrying his monster corpse with his practice moves, Go Soo-jin thought Kim Jin had really gone mad. Even outside the dungeon, Mr. Manchul, who was used to his behavior, asked if Kim Seo-jun was still doing those strange things. Kim Seo-jun reasoned that he couldn't miss his lecture. Mr. Manchul didn't understand anything Kim Seo-jun said. He immediately set up his other equipment. Kim Seo-jun asked how long it would take to deal with one monster. Mr. Manchul explained, as he said earlier, if the range of monsters is low and the expensive parts are not too many, it would take him roughly 15 seconds per monster. Hearing that, Kim Seo-jun praised him and immediately proceeded to collect the monsters, and then brought them out. Go Soo-jin, who had come out and saw that, was even more surprised, because they were about to start processing the monsters there. At first, Go Soo-jin would have taken issue with it, but considering that the cadets he saw were finished, and even that he didn't mind after getting permission from Go Soo-jin, Kim Seo-jun immediately went back and forth in and out of the dungeon carrying his monster corpses. Of course, while doing those weird exercise moves, Mr. Manchul quickly processed Go Soo-jin's monster corpse only to be stunned gaping. Them, and it was before his eyes after a while. Finally, Kim Seo-jun and Mr. Manchul had taken care of all the monster corpses. After packing up his equipment, Kim Seo-jun asked Mr. Manchul, "Where is the next dungeon?" While carrying a sling of processed monster corpses, Mr. Manchul said nearby is not the closest location, but if you think of destinations after that, the location is perfect. So he asked Kim Seo-jun to go straight away. They also left Supervisor Go Soo-jin, who was still silent and gaping. In their car, Kim Seo-jun and Mr. Manchul rushed forward. Somewhere, a man was seen sitting in front of the dungeon portal. Just like Go Soo-jin's previous supervisor, he is in charge of supervising the participants in the contest. The man looks happy because after all this time he has been in a stuffy room working at a computer. Finally, he can breathe fresh air. He played with the butterfly that flew around him and perched on his hand. He thought he wanted to be in that situation forever. But the man was also curious when the participants who had made reservations would come to the dungeon he was guarding. Not long after, suddenly a truck belonging to Kim Seo-jun came. Without speaking to the male supervisor, Kim Seo-jun immediately entered his dungeon, and Mr. Manchul immediately got ready outside with his monster surgery equipment. Kim Seo-jun quickly cleared his dungeon. This time he faced a skeleton monster, then took out his monster habit and handed it over to Master Manchul. Like before, they both synchronized so quickly that while they were both focused on their work, they ignored the male supervisor who kept sedentary them. From the beginning, they came until the two of them left the incident. The male supervisor could only freeze like a stone as all the events passed in front of him. We're turning to the dungeon management team under the Ministry of Public Administration and Security. The team leader asked Assistant Manager Kim what completed progress report was and what kind of contest started that day. Assistant Manager Kim says that he has done it. He puts his report on team leader table. Hearing that, the team leader immediately rushed his shirt, then checked his report. When he read the report, he looked surprised that the one named Lee So-yeon managed to complete 16 dungeons. The team leader thought that the cadet would rank first with the number of dungeons he cleared. But when he opened the next page, he was surprised to read that Lee So-yeon was in second place. He looked in disbelief that even though he cleared 16 dungeons, the cadet was not ranked first. He thought, is there any other cadet who managed to clear 17 dungeons? However, he was even more surprised when he found out that the first-ranked cadet named Kim Seo-jun managed to complete 32 dungeons. Therefore, the team leader immediately called Assistant Manager Kim. He questions the report. Is this report correct? It says here that the first sequence successfully cleared 32 dungeons and asks if this is possible. Assistant Manager Kim tried to explain that he also had suspicions about it, so he went to the location to check, and it was true. He was surprised Kim Seo-jun actually did the last 32 dungeons. He explained his travel route from dungeon to dungeon was perfect. And what was even more surprising, he heard from the dungeon guards that he only needed 10 minutes to complete it. The team leader still seemed unable to accept the report. 10 minutes? The team leader asked if it made sense for a cadet level, it would at least take 30 minutes to complete it, not to mention if you add travel time and also rest time. So he asked if maybe he wasn't a cadet, or someone was helping him. Their conversation caught the attention of the other employees. The employees immediately saw the behavior of the two of them. Even so, Assistant Manager Kim again wanted the team leader. He had carefully examined all the possibilities, but he didn't find any violations he had committed. The team leader asked if there was no cheating whatsoever and which academy the cadet was from. Kim's assistant manager said he was a cadet for Dream Academy, a small academy located in the Yunpyeong district of Korea. Hearing the name of the academy, the team leader remembered something. "Academy Dream, wait a moment," he said. "Isn't that the academy run by the Sword Saint's grandson?" Assistant Manager Kim also came to his senses after hearing the leader's words, as he thought he had heard that name before, but he forgot, so that's what it looks like. They both looked at each other. A moment later, a question arose. It wasn't the Sword Saint who registered it right. Assistant Manager Kim immediately rushed to check it out. Elsewhere, a man scolding Cadet Lee Soyeon. "Looks like you failed to rank first." Lee Soo-yoon could only apologize for that. The man continues, "Do you think an apology will solve this? If you fail to get first place, their academy will receive a loss that cannot be ignored." He then asked, 32 dungeons, do you think that's a doable amount? Lee Soyeon thought even if she finished raiding every dungeon in minutes. But even considering that, when you added the travel time from dungeon to dungeon, 32 was an impossible number. The man continued he thought it could be possible if someone helped him secretly. He then told Lee Soyeon to just continue her work. He will handle everything. Hearing that, Park Seo-yoon thought the man showed an expression that showed that this was a good opportunity. He wondered if he was planning to use a loophole in the existing rules. The man named Lee Sukmin is a former hunter rank apostle, headmaster of East Academy and Lee Soyeon's father. She walks near window, then she asks, "Do you think this thing is cheap?" Park Seo-yoon answered, "Of course not at all." Lee Sukmin said, "Don't think that this is cheap. In the end, everyone also seeks to benefit from the law in this world. What matters is who wins gets the advantage in the end. The process doesn't matter at all." He then asked if Lee Soyeon still had thoughts about Jinsu. Lee Soyeon's face changed. Then he replied, "Of course not." His father continued, "Jinsu is a fool. He thinks you are not a fool who will think of stupid things like that." Lee Soyeon confirmed her father's words. "Of course. Don't worry." After that, their meeting ended. When Lee So-yeon was walking in the hallway, she thought of Jinsu again. He remembers his past. In the past, Jinsu once said to Lee So-yeon, "You know, if you are a professional hunter, you must have something in your heart that you hold on to firmly." Hearing that, Park Seo-yoon asked right now if there was anyone who thought like that. "Everyone becomes a professional hunter to make money." Jinsu continued, "Just because the world is like that doesn't mean he has to be like that too. Just wait for your brother to become a professional hunter who can move people's hearts," said Jinsu. Hearing those words could make Lee So-hyun a little embarrassed, so he begged you not to say that in public. "If people start making fun of you, I'll also be embarrassed," said Lee So-yeon. Because of that, Jinsu asked, "Do you think this brother is embarrassing?" As Lee So-yeon thought about her past, her brother's image appeared in front of her again. He replied that it was very embarrassing. He then said, "Big brother, if you are already dead, stop showing your face in front of me." Elsewhere, Kim Seo-joon and Mr. Manchul are resting. Mr. Manchul looks like he's complaining because his whole body hurts, and he still has to do that until next week. Oh said if it continues like this, maybe he could die. Kim Seo-joon gave a canned drink to Mr. Manchul. She thanks him for working hard that day, but slightly scoffs at Mr. Manchul's childlike behavior. Tuan Manchul reasoned what to do. Have you ever driven while thinking about the next 5 steps to be taken? Mr. Manchul's brain is already working hard. Kim Seo-joon laughed and also confirmed it. But if you see the money that has been made, Manchul will definitely say that. If you deduct the tax they get about $7,800. Then each of them gets $3,900. It seems that Tuan Manchul does not agree with the distribution. Why just 50, 50, 70, 30? Kim Seo-joon almost did it all, so he said how could he take half? Kim Seo-joon reasoned, but uncle was the one who did the transfer of the cargo. "Do you know how important work is?" asked Kim Seo-joon. "You also drive while planning the route from time to time." But Mr. Manchul remains adamant with his thoughts. That is why he took 30%. He actually even thinks that 20 is fine. Mr. Manchul then said it's okay and accept it. Otherwise he will not come tomorrow. Hearing that Kim Seo-joon decided okay, so 30% of $7,800 is $2,340. Because the amount was not round, Kim Seo-jun made it just $2,500. However, Mr. Manchul still protested that. But Kim Seo-jun has already decided that. Just accept it. If it wasn't for Mr. Manchul, Kim Seo-jun said he wouldn't have gotten this much. He then says if uncle needs a reason, then think of it as gas money. Finally, Mr. Manchul also understood Kim Seo-jun's decision. Kim Seo-jun suddenly asked Mr. Manchul if he wasn't surprised. But Mr. Manchul did not understand the meaning of Kim Seo-jun's question. Kim Seo-jun asked if he wasn't surprised when he saw him clearing his dungeon. Mr. Manchul reasoned that he had seen Kim Seo-jun before. He saw Kim Seo-jun fight at the Academy convention that time. Hearing this, Kim Seo-jun immediately gasped in surprise. "If you come, you should tell me, uncle," said Kim Seo-jun. According to Mr. Manchul, if he told Kim Seo-jun, it would only make him think about unnecessary things. Hearing Mr. Manchul's answer, Kim Seo-jun thought Mr. Manchul might be rude, but he will always help, even if he doesn't realize it. He has always helped him, a person who owed debts to him after his parents died, and will always be a pillar of support for Kim Seo-jun. Then Kim Seo-jun said the idea that was on his mind. Why not just make your own monster service company, and then be your own service company? Manchul then asks where the money is. Kim Seo-jun answered Bloomnow, later when he grows up. Manchul also said as he thought. He tells her to just say that she has reached it. In his heart, Kim Seo-jun was thanking Mr. Manchul. The night passed. On the second day of the dungeon sweep contest, when Kim Seo-jun and Mr. Manchul were doing their job as usual, a dungeon guard said, so you two are the rumored dungeon breakers." When asked what it was, he replied that it had no special meaning. It was because the two of them not only did raid, but they actually dismantled it, so the name stuck with them. To be honest, stories about the two of them had already spread. At first, he also didn't believe it, but after seeing the two of them directly with his own eyes, he had no problem anyway. Time passed after that. On the 24th SW-UP dungeon leaderboard, Kim Seo-jun still leads in first place by clearing 73 dungeons. If they continued like this, then it was certain that he would be the winner. But Mr. Manchul seemed convinced that Kim Seo-jun would be the winner. With everything they've done, if Kim Seo-jun doesn't come first, there must be something wrong with the contest. Kim Seo-jun thought it was right to ask Uncle Manchul for help. Kim Seo-jun also asked him to keep his spirits up. But Lord Manchul grumbles a little. Even if he dies, he will definitely not rest. Kim Seo-jun promised that if he won, he would buy Mr. Manchul a sumptuous meal. Tuan Manchul also challenged him to choose the most expensive food. Kim Seo-jun is very sure of his promise. Of course he will buy anything. Kim Seo-jun also said, "Don't forget So-yeon because he hasn't seen her for a while." This refers to Mr. Manchul's daughter. Hearing Kim Seo-jun, who is very confident, Mr. Manchul thinks he will ask Kim Seo-jun to buy a whole cow. Kim Seo-jun thinks this is going well. Great, we just have to follow the route to get the prize money. Time passed. The third day dungeon sweep contest was held. Mr. Manchul looks a bit confused at this point. Kim Seo-jun approached him and asked him what was wrong. Mr. Manchul showed his smartphone to Kim Seo-jun. After seeing his cell phone, Kim Seo-jun was shocked. He looked at his contest dungeon map. Because of the promise around where they are, there are no more available dungeons. There are no dungeons that can be reserved in the vicinity. Kim Seo-jun thinks it looks like all the reservations around it are no coincidence. Too flashy to be called that. According to Mr. Manchul, it seems that someone did this on purpose. He felt the other contestants had started to be wary of the two of them. But Mr. Manchul didn't expect the contestants to go that far to hinder their progress. But Kim Seo-jun thought because the two of them could not confirm this, he invited Mr. Manchul to go to the available dungeon first. But the same thing also happened in the next dungeon. This must be a trick of the second position, but it's hard to prove it with just that. For now, Manchul will try to protest the committee. Kim Seo-jun has been silent. After arriving at his academy, he was deep in thought. He's still in the lead now, but it's only the third day. If that keeps repeating, then my lead will be lost if I'm out of luck. Kim Seo-jun now looked at Mr. Manchul, then said, "Mister, I'm sorry. But until we can get some distance from them, the monster processing will have to be postponed. Manchul also understands that. Of course, victory is more important, so he's worrying too much about me. But no matter how fast you can do the grab, I can't do anything about the distance for the best root damage. But if they kept getting in their way, Kim Seo-jun didn't know what would happen. Kim Seo-jun suddenly said he had just thought of something. How about we do it like this?" Time flies. There was a group of people gathered in one place. One of the men in a neat suit who seemed to be their leader suddenly approached them all. Then he said it was very exciting for your conversation, but remember not to be too casual. There are people who ask why Kim Seo-jun can't react that quickly, but his colleagues don't care about that. He thinks they just need to enjoy the situation now. The Perjus man who had checked his cell phone shouted everyone gathered, Kim Seo-jun. It already made a reservation, so they ordered all the dungeons that were 1 hour away from the surrounding dungeons. If they ordered all at once, it would look suspicious, so alternate ordering every 10 minutes according to how long it took him to complete his raid. But after the man in the suit finished his sentence, the people there looked confused. Seeing that the man in the suit asked, "What's wrong? Why are you acting like that?" Someone explained whether they still had to reserve according to the strategy earlier, because the dungeon he ordered was next door to Lee Soo-yeon's dungeon. Now the man in the suit was surprised to hear the explanation. He immediately took the man's cell phone and checked it using his own eyes. The people there were starting to fuss about it. Someone also said that there is a regulation that states that if you can't break the dungeon that has been ordered for 10 hours afterwards. So yesterday they had to complete the dungeon they had ordered. The man in the suit seemed very upset after knowing what was going on. There he could only swear because of his mistake. Elsewhere, Lee So-yeon is clearing dungeons. After finishing, Park Seo-yoon left with his car and ordered the driver to immediately head to the next dungeon location. But the driver looks confused. He explained that actually all the dungeons in this area had been booked. So he was confused about where to go. Hearing this, Lee So-yeon immediately asked Sopian to take her to the academy where her father was. On the way, he thought they had been deceived. At first, Lee So-yeon thought this was just a coincidence, but Kim Seo-jun always ordered dungeons nearby, and because the dungeons had already been ordered, inevitably Lee So-yeon also got the sap. If she continued, Lee So-yeon would not be able to top her score. A few moments later, Lee So-yeon arrived at East Academy and immediately reported the situation to her father in his room. His father explained he had expected that he would notice, but he didn't know the response would be like this. He says, "Take it easy. He has thought of a different method, so just keep doing what he is doing. Time flies. It doesn't feel like it's been the 5th day of the dungeon sweep contest that has taken place." When Lee So-yeon was in front of a gate, someone spoke to her. "So you're Lee So-yeon." Heard someone talking to him? Lee So-yeon immediately looked towards the voice, and it turned out that it was Kim Seo-jun, and also Mr. Manchul who were walking towards him. Then he asked, "Who are they?" Mr. Manchul answered him, "Who else if not a victim of the same cruelty that you have experienced?" Seeing that a dungeon guard immediately looked at them. Fights between participants are prohibited, so if they break this rule, then both of them will be penalized. But saying he wasn't here to fight, I ordered the dungeon there. Lee Soo-yeon asked if you were Kim So-jun. Kim Seo-jun confirmed this and asked if you must be Lee So-yeon. He said it doesn't matter who wins, let's play sportsmanship. Hearing that, Lee So-yeon said that Kim Seo-jun's speech was like saying that he had cheated. Hearing that, Kim Seo-jun laughed. Lee So-yeon thinks good intentions are ridiculous. There is no such thing as good intentions. No, good intentions couldn't arise in a world like this. The being named human was born with selfishness and could only move based on his advantage. If something brings profit, they act. If not, they will just shut up. In this process, there is no such thing as goodwill, such as justice or equity. When Lee So-yeon was entering her dungeon, she thought it would be better to finish it quickly, then left from there. When leaving the dungeon guard was seen paying attention to what Kim Seo-jun was doing. He had heard the rumors, but seeing it in person was indeed different. Hearing that, Lee So-yeon was interested to see what Kim Seo-jun was doing. But Lee So-yeon was shocked by what he saw. Kim Seo-jun approached him with the corpse of a monster on his shoulder and asked if he had finished the raid. If Lee So-yeon ignores the monster corpses, Kim Seo-jun asked to take them. Lee So-yeon also understood the meaning of Kim Yeon's words, and he gave her permission. Kim Seo-jun was grateful for that, and immediately hauled the corpses of monsters from inside the dungeon that Lee So-yeon raided. He immediately went back and forth to take the corpse of the monster. Seeing that Lee So-yeon asked why he did that, Kim Seo-jun stopped his steps, then he answered of course to get money. Hearing Kim Seo-jun's answer, Lee So-yeon walked away and left him. He thought he was wasting his time there. He thought I knew there was no such thing as goodwill in this world. Likewise with Hunter, there is no such thing as a good hunter. The era where everyone can become a professional hunter is just a job. We turn to Park Min-chul, who is in a dungeon. After he killed one of the monsters there, he looked astonished. Didn't you guys say that this is the 6-star Duinjin? Then why are there 10-star monsters here? After defeating the monster, Park Min-chul immediately asked Kalia, who was not far from there. Kalia explained that when they measured their estimates, they came out with 6 stars. He said the reason why there was a Drake here was probably because of the distortion. But Park Min-chul couldn't accept such nonsense. Distortion will not occur like this. Park Min-chul started to think the Order of Truth was planning something the same as 30 years ago. Kalia immediately denied it. He said, "I understand how you feel, Mr. Sword Saint. But I swear on the name of the Church of Truth that they didn't plan or do anything. Suddenly a woman, they both of you, to stop fighting in front of him. He said I followed you guys here to investigate the situation so you don't have to fight." But Park Min-chul even scolded him and said that the woman was very noisy. He asked more importantly, why was she here? Where had the magic saint gone? It turned out that the woman was a student of the magic saint named Young Jimin. Young Jimin answered that you already know that master is having health problems. Because he was called grandfather, Park Min-chul said that only he could stay healthy at that age. Young Jimin also said that even though he is getting older, his speaking style is still the same. After that, the three of them checked the corpse of the monster. Young Jimin said he could feel a strange magic here. But like Park Min-chul said earlier, it was hard to say that this was the result of a distortion. He then asked if there were any abnormalities when Park Min-chul fought this monster. Park Min-chul casually said there wasn't any abnormality, and it was just a 10-star monster. Hearing that, Young Jimin continued to ask you, "Do you realize that what you said earlier made you sound like an arrogant boy, right?" He then said it was true they couldn't underestimate the situation. After the death of the giant beast, Berserk, this situation had never happened before. Kalia asked if there was a possibility that something similar could happen in a different dungeon. Young Jimin said the possibility is very small, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. Anyway, Young Jimin thinks they need to investigate this further. He said they needed to negotiate to double-check the low-level dungeons that had been measured for difficulty. Elsewhere, the two people who were in front of the gate were amazed. The woman asked if this was the place, the gate in question. The man then answered yes. Although the case is rare, there was once a case where 2 dungeons were next to each other. But this was the first time he saw that there were 3 dungeons next to each other at once. In 2050, a virtual reality game called Gods was created. It caused a big stir. Everyone thought it was just a game until a player discovered that game attributes could be transferred to the real world. The ascension of the gods is the path to becoming a god. Players who reach this level can challenge the gods. Whoever wins will become a god, and the loser will perish. At the peak of raising the gods, Jiang Chun opposed the gods and said that if he lost, then no one could defeat the gods. God shouts at him, calling him mortal, and saying that this is not just a game. Jiang Chun agreed with him that it wasn't just a game, but he had his reasons. At least for now, he didn't regret anything. After these words, he used his power and killed the god. But at the same time, he died and entered someone's body. When he opened his eyes, he discovered that he was in someone else's body. At the same time, the computer standing in front of him announced that the virtual reality game Gods would soon be launching on its server and asked if anyone was waiting for it. After hearing this, Jiang Chun began to look at his surroundings and only then realized that he had been reborn. When he realized this, he heard a loud noise. He turned towards the door and saw a girl there with a box in her hand. He comes closer and asks what is she doing as the door is not opening after she knocked on the door for so long. He then asked if he still needed this thing. This girl is Xia Rui's neighbor. Seeing him, Jiang Chun replied with shining eyes that he was grateful to him and thought that he should return no matter what. Hearing his answer, Xia Rui put the box on his desk and said that he was standing right in front of him, but he was only thinking about the game. When he said that, Xia Rui heard and saw the half-naked girl saying that while they waited, she would dance for them. After that, Xia Rui said that now it was clear why he ignored him and asked if he liked this game. Jiang Chun smiled and answered how could he not like girls in black underwear. When Xia Rui heard this, he approached Jiang Chun and bowed, and asked if she was the mature and charming woman he liked. Looking at Xia Rui's breasts, Jiang Chun thought that if Xia Ruir wore tight black underwear, who could resist her? After thinking about it, he responded by calling Xia Ruir that this was bad for his health. Without letting Jiang Chun finish his words, Xia Ruir held his head and pointed it at the computer while telling Jiang Chun to go play his game and say goodbye. While holding his helmet, Jiang Chun told him in his heart that this was not just a game. Soon the girl on the computer said that there were 3 seconds left before the God server launched. Jiang Chun then put on his helmet and moved into the game. Jiang Chun finally entered the game. He thinks that each player gets talent randomly. Last time he had a rare talent, so he was wondering what would happen this time. At that moment, a system window appeared in front of him, which greeted Jiang Chun and provided information that now everyone would awaken talents, and talents would be divided into common, rare, excellent, outstanding, and perfect. After being notified about this, the system started downloading what kind of talent Jiang Chun would have. After that, the system reported that the analysis was successful and obtained the special talent Yin-Yang Reversal. Jiang Chun was confused because he didn't think there was a Yin-Yang talent. The system also informed him that the rarity of the talent was unknown, and the effect of using this talent was to have the opposite effect on the skill, and its power would increase with the player's level. Jiang Chun wondered if he wanted to harm someone, then healing would occur, and how he could use it now. Jiang Chun then smiled. He then got a notification that he had to choose an initial profession from warrior, mage, priest, summoner, assassin, archer, and knight. Jiang Chun immediately shouted that he chose priest. After receiving Jiang Chun's answer, the system dressed him in the clothes of a priest in the blink of an eye and wished him good luck in his life. This was the story of Jiang Chun, who was immortal, but could also kill gods. After finding himself at one of the adults for beginners, the system greeted him and informed him that Jiang Chun was at the novice village number 10001 and wished his name to become famous in the world of gods. Jiang Chun was immediately impressed by the world before him. He couldn't believe the amazing visual effects. He then started looking around, telling himself that he would find a place to test his talent. In the previous life, each player's initial 4 attribute points were 10. However, they would be evaluated differently according to professional bonuses and skill effects. Jiang Chun then looked at his profile where he saw his player status. He has the talent of Yin-Yang Reversal Unique Level, Priest Profession, and Level 1. Seeing this, Jiang Chun said that each profession has its initial skill, and for a priest, it is a healing spell. First-level healing spells have no damage, but the amount of healing is not lower than the damage of other professions of the same level. After receiving the medium-sized staff in his hand, Jiang Chun said that professions based on intelligence had their attribute that recovered mana at 1% per second. If Jiang Chun only used the healing spell, his mana would be barely a realm depleted. Jiang Chun then applied his skill without finishing his sentence. Jiang Chun used his magic and used his special talent. After that, the system notifies him that he has received reverse healing from the first tier, reducing the target's health by 30 PTs plus 150% spell power. Refill time is 5 seconds and consumes 5 mana points. Jiang Chun immediately wondered if this damage was reasonable. Not only converts healing spells into damage effects, but also increases them by 50% and can even grow with levels. On second thought, Jiang Chun thought that this talent was stronger than his previous life. He was determined to meet again soon at the Ascension of the Gods. After that, Jiang Chun went to the east side of the Green Meadow. It came here to hunt the Crimson Ramhorn. When he got there, Jiang Chun thought that 2 hours after the server was launched, a new special NPC would appear in the novice village in just 1 hour. Players can trade sheep horns for buffs from him, and this is a great opportunity for beginners, so he should hurry up. Jiang Chun pointed his staff at one of the sheep, and thought that in his previous life, he only had a few horns and he exchanged them for standard buffs. But this time, he wanted to get the first rank buff on the server. Jiang Chun then attacked one of the Crimson Ramhorns, but that Crimson Ramhorn didn't immediately die and saw Jiang Chun. That Crimson Ramhorn then immediately rushed towards Jiang Chun, but Jiang Chun easily dodged and attacked again, and this time the Crimson Ramhorn was dead. Jiang Chun also picked up the horn that was dropped by the Crimson Ramhorn. The system told him that it was the horn of a red sheep, and the legend said that this horn was used by people in the ancient Qingyingan Marma to worship gods. 2 hours later, Jiang Chun killed 800 crimson ram horns and received 705 horns from them. After he finished killing them, Jiang Chun went to the NPC to exchange his rewards. On his way home, Jiang Chun met several players who wanted to hunt the crimson ram horn too. They felt lucky because they found a limited quest and were sure they would get a good buff. But one of them said that wasn't necessarily true, because even though crimson ram horns were low level, they had thick skin and high damage. So even if they work together, this requires some effort. Then the player who saw Jiang Chun called him a weak priest, and said that the weak priest must have wanted to farm here, but was discouraged. A while later, after reaching the Lost Temple, Jiang Chun saw many people inviting players to their teams. As Jiang Chun passed by them, one of the girls approached Jiang Chun and called out to him to invite him to team up. Jiang Chun sharply replied that he didn't have time. Hearing his rejection, the girl was disappointed and thought that it was not easy to meet a handsome man. He didn't expect that he couldn't be teased. Jiang Chun continued walking until he saw a girl in front of him who told him that she was a handsome priest. The girl invited Jiang Chun to do a limited quest together and told him that he was a strong tank. Jiang Chun answered the girl that he was not interested because he preferred men to the girl's surprise. After passing through it for some time, Jiang Chun finally met an old man sitting on the ground. He told Jiang Chun that he was a traveler from another world, and he was here recently so the gods should guide him. But the temple is in ruins, and the light of the gods has faded, and only the horns of the crimson ram horn can communicate with them. He said the more crimson ram horns, the easier it is to get the blessings of the gods. Jiang Chun replied that that was why he was here. The old man was shocked by the number of crimson ram horns that Jiang Chun had. But then he started using magic and told Jiang Chun that the gods were guarding him. Jiang Chun also asked the old man if this was a blessing. This time the old man used magic, and an invisibility statue appeared behind him. Meanwhile, the old man said that adventurers must keep a pure heart, then the gods will bless them. Jiang Chun looked at all this and asked himself what kind of buff he would get. As soon as he thought about it, a Cupid girl appeared in front of him, and immediately the system notified Jiang Chun that he had received a hidden buff. He will receive the following benefits. Firstly, the cooldown time will be reduced by 50%. Second, mana consumption will be reduced by 50%. Third, the quality of the item dropped will be increased by 1. When closeness to the opposite sex reaches full value, 1 advantage is granted. After reaching the maximum level of intimacy with 3 members of the opposite sex at once, he can get all 3 benefits. Seeing this information, Jiang Chun immediately became dissatisfied. He said that he had just rejected all the girls, and now he was given such a buff. After that, Jiang Chun started bowing to the old man and asked if, since he was communicating with the gods, could he ask them to give him more. The old man shouted back, calling him an adventurer and telling him to follow the gods' instructions and find the way. Jiang Chun ran away and told him that he just wanted to chat with the god of love. After running for a while, Jiang Chun started to think that if he had known beforehand that he would get such a buff, he wouldn't have rejected the girls earlier. And now, he wondered if he would be able to find someone now. While asking that, Jiang Chun saw a girl knight from before. He was surrounded by a crowd of men who told him with smiles that they had formed a team, and now they could go. Besides that, they're very happy because they have a beautiful girl on the team. The girl didn't answer him, but she felt uncomfortable. He accidentally received a request to cooperate with them, and now this is problematic for him. It wasn't long before the system suddenly informed the girl that player Jiang Chun had invited her to the team, but she couldn't accept the proposal while he was on another team. Seeing Jiang Chun, the girl was very happy because he came on time. The girl immediately apologized to her team, saying that her friend had come. At the same time, Jiang Chun also received a notification that he couldn't invite players because the girl was already on the team. Upon seeing this, Jiang Chun sighed and said that he found them annoying, and now it was quite difficult for him to make a team now. So he thought that he should go to the village gate since there were a lot of people there. When Jiang Chun was about to leave, The night girl stopped him, calling him brother. He tells her to wait for him. Then Jiang Chun received a notification that player Qing Ying had proposed to him to join the team. Jiang Chun pressed the accept button while asking him if he wasn't on the other team. Qing Ying replied that he accidentally clicked accept and wanted to leave the team as soon as possible. After accepting him into the team, the God of Love's blessing was activated. Jiang Chun told him to follow him, and he would take him to farm monsters. Qing Ying happily agreed with him and ran after him. Seeing all this, Qing Ying's previous team was displeased, and they were wondering why he had left them and gone with this priest. In the afternoon, after reaching the Green Plains, Qing Ying approached Jiang Chun and called him brother, then asked if they weren't going to hunt crimson ram horns. Jiang Chun replied that it was too late for now, and they shouldn't waste his time. He also told him that he should stop calling his brother and calling him names. Qing Ying smiled and answered positively, calling him big brother Jiang Chun. Then he said that there were no monsters to be seen here. Jiang Chun said that they would meet them soon and continued on their way. When the sun had completely set, they encountered a level 5 wild wolf monster. Qing Ying asked if they could kill him since he was a level 5 monster. Jiang Chun replied that he didn't need to fight, and he just needed to wait until he was done. After saying this, Jiang Chun started attacking the wild wolf monster with his healing magic. Jiang Chun also gave him minus 120 damage, which the wild wolf monster couldn't easily dodge. And because it was continuously happening, Qing Ying, who witnessed this, was dumbfounded. He asked himself whether this priest was an expert. Seeing Jiang Chun do more than 100 damage, even though an LV5 mage only did around 30 to 40 damage, made Qing Ying think that Jiang Chun was cheating. But then Qing Ying shook her head and said that this was impossible, because the Gods game was made by the creator company, together with other companies in the world. How can it be hacked? Watching Jiang Chun and seeing how deftly he was fighting the wild wolf monster, Qing Ying continued to talk and asked herself if he was too strong. Even for the top players in holographic games, no one can control every action precisely and effortlessly grind without taking damage. After saying this, Qing Ying said in a very excited voice that she had to defeat Jiang Chun, so she started teasing Jiang Chun and asked Jiang Chun to look her way. But Jiang Chun suddenly warned Qing Ying that he was being attacked from behind. Qing Ying came to his senses and was able to protect himself with the shield from the wild wolf monster's attacks. As soon as she felt relieved, Qing Ying immediately heard the words that she should not be distracted. And at that very moment, the wild wolf monster managed to successfully injure Qing Ying. This time, Qing Ying was unable to protect himself and suffered damage. Jiang Chun ran up to him and told him to stay away and not be distracted. Qing Ying turned to him and was surprised to see Jiang Chun, who was aggroing the two monsters. Jiang Chun replied that if he didn't kill them, they would kill Qing Ying. While asking this, Jiang Chun thought about what he should do with his buff if Qing Ying died and returned to the resurrection place because it would take a long time. Qing Ying, who heard his question, apologized. Jiang Chun told him that it was pointless to apologize, and he just needed to stop bothering. Qing Ying answered him positively, while thinking that Jiang Chun's movements were very elegant. He wondered whether an ordinary person could do this. 15 minutes later, Jiang Chun defeated the wild wolf monster and obtained the drop item Decayed Wood Staff. Seeing this, Jiang Chun thought that now only white-grade items could be obtained from small-level monsters. Only with the blessing of love will they drop bronze-grade items. Just as he was thinking, Jiang Chun heard Qing Ying's happy voice saying that she had reached level 4. Jiang Chun started to check the affinity with Qing Ying and saw that only 57 out of 10,000 had been achieved. He wondered if 157 was the number of monsters he had just killed. Jiang Chun thought that if when they were in a team one monster killed gave 1 affinity point, then 10,000 was not a small number. Just as he was thinking, Jiang Chun and Qing Ying heard an extremely terrifying sound, and when they turned around, they saw a level 5 mutated wolf monster boss monster. Looking at the boss monster, Jiang Chun happily thought that currently there were only a few who could face the level 5 monster, and if he can kill this LV5 boss monster, then they will get the first kill. But after he thought about it, with his speed it was impossible to avoid the mutated wolf monster's speed just by positioning. So he had to find a way to defeat him. After some thought, Jiang Chun shouted at Qing Ying, telling her to stay where she was and not move. And when he gives the signal, he must immediately put up a shield. Qing Ying agreed with him and was preparing her orders. He told himself that he would eventually be of use to Jiang Chun. Then Jiang Chun started attacking the mutated wolf monster and thought that 10,000 points of health and in the healing spell would reduce 10% each use. The mutated wolf monster pounced towards them. Jiang Chun stepped back and shouted at Qing Ying to block with the shield now. Qing Ying raised her shield and was able to block the mutated wolf monster's attack. At the same time, Qing Ying, who was surprised to be able to parry it, wondered what the power of a pro player's ability to predict was. While Qing Ying blocked the mutated wolf monster, Jiang Chun jumped up and attacked the mutated wolf monster from above. The mutated wolf monster immediately ran after him. Jiang Chun shouted for Qing Ying to block. After repeating such tricks, Jiang Chun was finally able to defeat the mutated wolf monster. The system congratulated him on killing the boss. His level was raised to 7 and 4-dimensional attributes plus 1, and he also received 4 additional points. Additionally, his affinity with Qing Ying rose to 67 points. At that time, Qing Ying was happy because it had reached level 5. Jiang Chun congratulated her and looked into the system to see if she had received any good things from the boss monster. Jiang Chun received the Flying Cloud Robe, Sharp-Edged Dagger, and Sealed Skill Book. Seeing all this, Jiang Chun thought that the buff that added to the quality of these drops was very useful. Now he can wear the Flying Cloud Robe, and the Sharp-Edged Dagger can be sold on the market for the highest profits. When it comes to increasing his attributes, just like usual, Jiang Chun uses all his attribute points into intelligence so that his healing spell damage increases. Qing Ying then asked where they were going now. Jiang Chun told him that he had to go back to Beginner Village first, and he could leave first. Before he could finish his sentence, Qing Ying happily told him that she also had a quest there, so she would go back with him. 10 minutes later, they reached the Beginner Village. But on his way, some people were with Qing Ying before while hunting. Seeing the returning Jiang Chun and Qing Ying, one of them asked the other, wasn't the night girl who left them before. Another answered positively, saying that he was angry when he saw Jiang Chun. Hearing his words, the man who asked the first question pointed an arrow at Jiang Chun and said that they would let the priest learn a good lesson that strength was everything. After saying this, the man threw his arrow. Jiang Chun sensed the hidden attack easily and dodged the arrow. Qing Ying was relieved that Jiang Chun was all right and asked who had done such a despicable thing. Jiang Chun asked them if they still didn't want to show themselves, but the man who fired the shot replied that Jiang Chun was extremely lucky to have avoided it. Seeing them, Qing Ying immediately shouted and asked why they had attacked Jiang Chun. The man with the arrows answered her with a question whether Qing Ying thought they were public restrooms so she could come and go as she pleased. After seeing how they returned to the novice village, they decided not to spend any time with them. He drew his wand, and he aimed the fireball at Jiang Chun, and Qing Ying immediately stood in front of Jiang Chun and protected him with a shield. Jiang Chun smiled and said that it had been a long time since he had met a player so eager to give him an item. After saying that, Jiang Chun took out his staff and confidently said that he would send them home right away. After saying these words, Jiang Chun cast a healing spell on them. They were shocked by what happened. The man with the magic wand was shocked, saying how could a priest possibly cause mischief, and called Jiang Chun a cheater. Jiang Chun scratched his ear and pointed his cane at him, and reminded one not to forget to report it when they died. The other guy's friend had taken 225 damage and was shocked to think his health was 190. This was too little, and he needed at least 35 more HP to survive. Jiang Chun looked at the man and asked how he wanted to die. The man began to beg for mercy, and asked to be released so they could meet again in the future. Jiang Chun, using magic, replied that he didn't care what he was worried about, and said he would take care of the weapon he was about to give. After these words, Jiang Chun attacked the man, and the man who had received damage shouted that he didn't want to die as he would lose 1 unit of all attributes. The party that initiated the attack would be forced to drop their quality item equipment and lose one of their attributes. Immediately after the player was defeated, Jiang Chun took a look at the man's belongings. Jiang Chun said that there were so many good people in this world who knew that he lacked money to buy skill books, and they stopped him from giving him equipment. Qing Ying looked at Jiang Chen and admired him, saying he was so handsome and strong. Upon arriving at the village, Qing Ying told Jiang Chen that she was going to do an errand, and they would meet up later. Jiang Chen also said goodbye and told him to contact him later. Meanwhile, Jiang Chen thought about how to increase the intimacy level as soon as possible, because otherwise the buff might disappear, because the distance was too far. When he reached the exchange market, Jiang Chen looked at the list of items for sale. The system notifies that the system charges 1% for buying directly after successful purchase, and the system charges 2% for auction mode. After seeing what items he could buy at the auctions, Jiang Chen thought that all the outlets were now filled with white-grade items whose prices range from 2 gold 90 silver to 3 gold 40 silver. After thinking this over, Jiang Chen sold the Peachwood staff for 2 gold and 97 silver. Jiang Chen thought that this money would be enough to buy a skill book. And since silver daggers could be sold at auction, Jiang Chen decided to go to the village mansion to find a profession mentor. After arriving at Jiang Chen's mansion, went to the junior priest mentor's room. On the door of the room is the symbol of the guardian angel wings, which represents the priest's ultimate skill, resurrection. As soon as Jiang Chen entered the room, he was immediately greeted by a man sitting on a chair saying that he was happy to see such adventures in his spiritual healing room. He also said that he was Rot's mentor. Rot immediately asked if he could help her with something. Jiang Chen took out his skill book and said that he wanted to open the skill book. When he handed over the skill book, Jiang Chen thought that Rot was a mentor who used an odd approach. After picking up the book in his hand, Rot said in an excited voice that this was a 2-star skill book that emitted an extraordinary fragrance. After saying that, Rot glared at Jiang Chen and asked with a serious face if he knew that he needed energy to open this book, and it would cost him 5 gold pieces. Immediately, Jiang Chen reluctantly gave him the gold. After receiving the gold, Rot immediately opened the book and then gave it to Jiang Chen. The book turned out to be a group healing skill. Jiang Chen was happy to see him. The system also notified him that a healing ray of 2 stars releasing healing light within 20 meters. Recovery 100 health could bind up to 3 targets. Upon seeing this notification, Jiang Chen immediately thought that after Yin-Yang Reverse, this was the perfect group attack skill that would compensate for his current shortcomings. After thanking Rot, Jiang Chen started to leave, when he suddenly heard Rot telling him that God would bless him because he would heal so many people. Jiang Chen finally walked out of the building and looked around. He thought that it was time to meet Qing Ying and continue killing monsters. Jiang Chen wanted to continue his thoughts, but suddenly he heard a woman shouting at a girl. He said as long as he was here, he would not let her level up in God's domain. After hearing the woman call that girl Tao Xiao Tian, Jiang Chen was surprised that the future #1 summoner was being bullied like this at the start of the game. He also thought that he still needed 2 more girls in the team, so he decided to help him out. The girl kept scolding and yelling at Tao Xiaotian, telling him that after all, she thought she could pretend to be pitiful if she lowered her head and didn't speak. He said it was a waste of time because no one cared about trash like him except him. When the woman said this, Jiang Chen approached them, then said that was not true and asked if Tao Xiaotian wanted to join his team. When Tao Xiaotian received the offer to join the team, he innocently asked Jiang Chen if he really wanted to form a team with him, to which Jiang Chen smilingly answered positively, saying that he would take him to hunt monsters. Hearing her, Tao Xiaotian immediately looked at the woman nervously and said that he couldn't leave the beginner village because he didn't want to disturb other people. The woman averted her eyes and said that Jiang Chen should count himself lucky. He then shooed Jiang Chen away and said, "Don't burden yourself." However, Jiang Chen extended his hand to Tao Xiaotian and said that everything was fine because he was used to dealing with all kinds of problems. The woman who heard his words got annoyed and asked Jiang Chen who he thought he was. He then said that as long as he was here, Tao Xiaotian would not go with him. However, Tao Xiaotian immediately stretched out his hand in response to Jiang Chen and accepted the offer to join his team. After Tao Xiaotian's words, The woman stood in front of him to stop Tao Xiaotian and told him not to go. Jiang Chun, who saw such a reaction, immediately asked what he was saying as he took out his staff and started to cast his magic. Before the woman could reply, suddenly the huge rabbit behind them was overpowered. The shocked woman started asking how the damage could be so high, but Jiang Chun paid no attention to her. He took Tao Xiaotian's hand and led him while saying that first they would go to the village entrance to meet their other teammates. While looking at her team info, Qing Ying, who saw this, wondered to herself that she used to be alone, and now there was a girl with level 2. After that, she immediately thought that she was just a person leeching XP, and it was better for her not to think about it. Qing Ying then pounced on Jiang Chun's hand and asked where they were going now. Jiang Chun answered without hesitation, saying that they were going to Black Mist Canyon. When they reached Black Mist Canyon, they saw a group of monsters. Jiang Chun immediately told the girls that he was going to kill the monsters and they needed to find a place to settle down and not cause any trouble. After saying that, Jiang Chun headed towards the zombies with chains. Zombies with chains saw this also heading towards him. Jiang Chun started dealing enormous damage to all the zombies at once. The delighted Jiang Chun thought that this was truly a 2-star skill and intended to level it up as soon as possible. Tao Xiaotian, who witnessed that, was amazed and then turned to Qing Ying and started to ask if they were a couple and how Jiang Chun became so strong. Qing Ying blushed and replied that she had just met him too. Because Tao Xiaotian knew how to talk, Qing Ying came to like him. After looking at Jiang Chun again, Tao Xiaotian asked again if Qing Ying knew why Jiang Chun had brought them with him, because it seemed like he didn't need their help. Qing Ying replied that she didn't know herself. Tao Xiaotian also started to fantasize about something and shouted, suggesting that maybe Jiang Chun had something in mind about them. Qing Ying blushed and started to think that if she really wanted to, she could do that. But he thought Jiang Chun didn't like women. Qing Ying then misunderstands that Jiang Chun forming a team with 2 girls is to hide his identity as a gay person. Qing Ying also shouted that it was very thrilling hearing his screams. Tao Xiaotian asked what he meant by thrilling. Just when Qing Ying was about to answer, a system window opened where it was written that it congratulated player Tianxing Tian, who successfully reached level 10 first, and now the level leaderboard was open. After reading this, Qing Ying waved her hand and called Jiang Chun to tell him that he was on the ranking list level. Hearing this, Jiang Chun asked in surprise, but at the same time as a zombie immediately attacked him from behind. But Jiang Chun easily managed to defeat him, then opened the system window and said that he would take a look now. Looking at the ranking table, Jiang Chun saw that first place was occupied by Changxing Tianxia. Second place is occupied by Zaixia Fa Ye. The third place was occupied by Xianduan Yu Sheiting. 9th place went to Jian Qi Heng Qiu. The 10th place was occupied by Priest Jiang Chen. After seeing it, Jiang Chun thought about the fact that just like in his previous life, Qianxing Tianxia leveled up to the present and opened the rankings. But that guy was rich, so he hired people to hunt monsters. As soon as Jiang Chun saw that he entered 10th place on the rankings, Qing Ying and Tao Xiaotian immediately apologized, saying that they were to blame for dragging Jiang Chun down to not being ranked first. Jiang Chun sighed and smiled and told them that it wasn't their fault, because nothing would stop him from taking first place. He said that he just needed to wait for the boss to appear. Before he could finish his sentence, Tao Xiaotian shouted at him, pointing towards the Dream Fairy. Dream Fairy is a pet that can be tamed. When Jiang Chun saw it, he was immediately happy and said that it was cool. Finding pets that could provide buffs was more difficult than finding bosses. Hearing his words, Qing Ying and Tao Xiaotian happily asked him if he wanted to tame a pet. They are very excited to see it. But Jiang Chun looked to the side and told them not to rush because someone was coming here. The woman who was with Tao Xiaotian previously came with a team. He told Tao Xiaotian that if he didn't stay in the safe zone forever, every time Tao Xiaotian went out, he would kill him. Tao Xiaotian panicked because they came to look for trouble because of him. The frightened Tao Xiaotian looked at Jiang Chun and told him that he could kick him out of the team because he didn't want to cause trouble. Jiang Chun smiled and took out his staff and asked what problem he was talking about, because this was just players wanting to give him their equipment. Hearing his words, the woman became angry, and a warrior whispered to her that this priest was from the leaderboard. The assassin really, what if he was in the rankings? After all, it was just a priest, and what was there to be afraid of him? The priest also told them that if they were able to reach the 8th level, then there must be very strong players in the team, and it was better for them not to provoke Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen interrupted them by asking if they wanted to fight or not. The woman viciously said that since he was so arrogant, she would teach him a lesson. After saying that, he shouted to the 3 men behind him that the price had doubled. Agreeing with him, the warrior stood in front of the woman who was called Yan Huo and shouted that he believed that the priests, knights, and small trash could not do anything to them, and he would protect Sister Yan Huo. Yan Huo activates his fire magic and tells Tao Xiaotian that he will die. Qing Ying immediately reacted and stood in front of everyone and covered them with a shield. After that, Jiang Chen jumped and attacked everyone and destroyed 240 GP, killing them all. Seeing this, Tao Xiaotian was very surprised, and Qing Ying jumped up and down with joy. At the same time in the novice village, Yan Huo scolded them and called them trash. The warrior responded by calling her a stupid woman and saying that he had already told her that Jiang Chen was at the top of the leaderboard. The assassin also said that since priests couldn't do any damage, he thought girl knights were the strongest out of them. Priest exhaled and said that this matter was very unfortunate. At this time, Tao Xiaotian asked Jiang Chen if he would start taming now. In gods, there are 2 ways to tame pets and mounts. That is, use special items to capture or rely on abilities, or rely on strength to complete challenges to tame. Jiang Chen withdrew his staff and prepared to attack. Jiang Chen told Qing Ying and Tao Xiaotian that if any monsters or other players appeared near him, they should leave the team and attack him once. The illusion challenge has begun. Once the illusion challenge has been initiated, it cannot be interrupted voluntarily. If the player takes no damage, he will be knocked out automatically. If the player wants to tame the dream fairy, he must find a real fairy among the illusions. Seeing many fairies, Jiang Chen pondered that before his health ran out, he had to find a real fairy. It seems that these illusions are flying all over the sky, but they move in a limited space, and only true fairies can fly freely. Realizing this and seeing the fairy behind the restriction, Jiang Chen immediately attacked her. Not long after, the system notified him that he had captured Dream Fairy's pet. After receiving it, Jiang Chen opened his eyes and immediately saw Qing Ying and Tao Xiaotian right before his eyes. They asked and said that she finally opened her eyes and asked what was going on there. Jiang Chen, with the little fairy on his shoulders, answered with a smiling face that to tame a pet you have to enter an illusion, and she was there. Qing Ying happily asked if he managed to tame it. After he answered positively, Jiang Chen looked at the elf and said that he needed to give it a try. The Dream Fairy also used the blink skill on Jiang Chen. Seeing this, Jiang Chen thought that the reduced cooldown was due to the buff from the God of Love. When his Dream Fairy grows, blink can be increased. Then Jiang Chen thought that he needed to kill more monsters to level up. Jiang Chen looked at Qing Ying and Tao Xiaotian and asked why they looked at him like that, because they needed to gain experience. Qing Ying and Tao Xiaotian gasped at his words. Jiang Chen thought that they looked ridiculous. Jiang Chen went over to the remaining zombies and started hunting. Seeing how he was fighting, Qing Ying asked Tao Xiaotian why there was such a twist and it was so beautiful. After 10 minutes, Jiang Chen received a bow as a reward for killing monsters. But he said he didn't need it, and it looked like he should sell it for 40 or 50 gold. He then felt something. Jiang Chen looked back and saw a boss monster called Decayed Soul Hooker with level 9. Seeing him, Tao Xiaotian immediately told Jiang Chen and Qing Ying that this mutated zombie had 2 skills. The first was the Corrosive Slime, and the second was the Flying Scythe Hook. The first skill is basic attack, but the second skill will be difficult to handle. After hearing Tao Xiaotian's words, Jiang Chen asked him if he had seen this boss before. Tao Xiaotian, with a serious face, answered in the negative, saying that he had read about him in the official monster manual. He said it was difficult to overcome this boss, and he had made several battle strategies, and he would need another soldier. Qing Ying then immediately asked if he could use a shield. Tao Xiaotian told him that this monster was of a higher level, so he could easily die. Seeing and hearing his words, Jiang Chen thought it wasn't strange if Tao Xiaotian was the #1 summoner in his previous life. Jiang Chen told him he was right, but he thought he could deal with it. Tao Xiaotian was immediately shocked, and Qing Ying shouted that he could help because he knew how to use a shield. Jiang Chun jumped to climb a tall rock and answered him in the negative. He says that they should hide and not attract the attention of the monsters, and that he will handle everything himself. Tao Xiaotian immediately asked in surprise if he was serious. After responding positively to him, Jiang Chun started attacking the decayed soul hooker. After taking damage, he also attacked Jiang Chun back. But because Jiang Chun was on top, his attacks couldn't reach him. Seeing that, Tao Xiaotian was impressed by Jiang Chun's positioning, which was so good that he could avoid normal attacks. But he was curious about how he could avoid the flying scythe hook. When the boss lost 10% of its HP, Tao Xiaotian shouted that there would be a flying scythe hook coming. He also shouted to Jiang Chun to be careful. At this time, the boss monster had already thrown its hook at Jiang Chun. But he activated the Dream Fairy skill and teleported behind the zombie boss. Seeing how he actually got behind the zombies, Tao Xiaotian and Qing Ying were inspired by him. Chen thought that it was a shame that the recharge lasted 2.5 minutes and now he had to monitor the amount of health and slowly drain this boss. 25 minutes later, Jiang Chen was finally able to defeat the mutated zombie boss. Qing Ying immediately started jumping for joy and screaming that it was cool. The system also started sending notifications that his level had been raised to the 9th level. After killing the boss monster Decayed Soul Hooker and getting the first kill, he received 1 attribute unit in each attribute plus 4 additional attributes, and his current affinity with Qing Ying was 293 out of 10,000, and his affinity with Tao Xiaotian was 225 out of 10,000. Seeing such changes, Jiang Chun thought that everything was going smoothly with these girls, and it seemed that full intimacy would come soon. Jiang Chun also received a Frost Staff, Boots of Illusion, Blood-Tide Greatsword, and Moonlit Robe Blueprint. Jiang Chen, after receiving the award, immediately started thinking that he could use the staff and shoes, and he would take the big blood sword to the exchange market. Old things can also be sold, and this will bring in a lot of money. But the blueprints can be studied first and then sold when lifestyle platers have appeared. After thinking that, Jiang Chun looked at Tao Xiaotian and Qing Ying and told them that it was already 2 o'clock and they should stop for today, and then asked them if they would be online tomorrow. Qing Ying tells him that time flies so fast that it is already late, but he will be here all weekend. Tao Xiaotian smiled and said he was on summer vacation so he could play all day. After hearing their answers, Jiang Chun bid farewell to them with an amiable expression and left the game. After taking off his helmet, Jiang Chun said that time had passed very quickly. He jumped on the bed and told himself that tomorrow he should level up faster. When morning came, Xia Ruir woke Jiang Chun by knocking on the door and saying that it was time to get up. Jiang Chun, in his underwear, opened the door and said that it was still early. But as soon as Jiang Chun opened the door, Xia Ruir held out a package saying that she had brought him breakfast. Jiang Chun happily took the package and thanked him, saying that he was an honest person and he only paid with money, not with physical. Xia Ruir patted him on the shoulder, saying that he could speak arrogantly. He then looked at Jiang Chen and said that he forgot to ask yesterday where the novice village Jiang Chun was. Jiang Chun immediately answered that he was inside village 10001. After hearing the answer, Xia Ruir went into his room and sat on his gaming chair. Then he sighed and said that it was a pity, but he wanted her to take him with her. In addition, he heard that this game is very good and makes a lot of money. Jiang Chun told him that now 1 gold could be exchanged for 75 Huaxia coins, and later it could be exchanged for 100 or more coins later. Jiang Chun also said that he remembered that Xia Ruir was studying at the fashion design faculty. Saying this, Jiang Chun thought that he would rather give the blueprints to friends than sell them to strangers. Then Jiang Chun praised Xia Ruir, saying that he felt that this profession would suit her because she could learn to make different costumes after level 10 and then sell them. And this will be the most profitable job in the Gods game. Xia Ruir smiled and said that he might try, but he was still level 3 right now. Jiang Chun waved his head, telling him that when he had time, he would write a game strategy for him, and now the team members were waiting for him, and it was time for him to go to play. Xia Ruir gave him a flying kiss and left after agreeing with him. After he left, Jiang Chun immediately took the helmet and started to think that he was leveling too fast, and he completely forgot about all the ordinary players now at being at the second or third level. He then put Jiang Chun's helmet on confidently. He said that today's task was to advance to level 10. As soon as Jiang Chun logged into the game, he immediately received a message from Tao Xiaotian that he was online and asked that when he connected he should call him. Jiang Chun answered her message that they should meet at the village entrance in 5 minutes. After sending this message, Jiang Chun thought that he had come before him, and that he was truly amazing. But first Jiang Chun thought of going to the exchange market to inspect the weapons, and at the same time, he would check out yesterday's gold grade item. After being able to clear LV10 dungeons, gold rank items become useless after a while. The system notified Jiang Chun that the item being auctioned had been sold, and the money would be credited to his account. After some time, the system notified that 125 gold coins had been deposited into Jiang Chun's account. Seeing the price, Jiang Chun immediately thought that last night the price of gold exceeded 100 gold coins. In the real world, this is equal to 100,000. Then Jiang Chun also thought that the Gods game was really the most profitable virtual game, and he didn't know how much he could get for a gold-level weapon yet. After thinking this over, he put the sword up for sale out of curiosity as to how many gold rank items could be sold. After a while, Jiang Chun received a message from Tao Xiaotian that Sister Qing Ying was also at the entrance, and they were waiting for him. After receiving it, Jiang Chun went to the gate. When he reached, there he saw the cheerful Tao Xiaotian and the sleepy Qing Ying. As soon as he saw Jiang Chun, he shouted at him, waving his hand. Qing Ying, who was half asleep, wished him good morning. Jiang Chun immediately asked him with a laugh what he had robbed all night. Qing Ying replied that this sight was very interesting, and she was grinding until 3 in the morning. Tao Xiaotian also said that he agreed. The encyclopedia on the forum was updated again, and there were lots of monsters he didn't recognize. He also read that all players who reached the 10th level were trapped in the ancient Shadow Realm, and they couldn't return to the main city. Hearing that, this Qing Ying made a questioning face and said that she did not know. After seeing Qing Ying, who was confused, Tao Xiaotian replied that it was pinned on the forum yesterday. Qing Ying immediately told him that the forum was made for reading gossip. Qing Ying then said that it was better to forget about it, and asked what the ancient Shadowed Realm was. Tao Xiaotian replied with a big smile that the ancient Shadowed Realm was a copy of the main world, but from level 10 there was a gate, and players had to pass the ancient Shadowed Realm's test to open the gate to the city. Hearing her words, Jiang Chun immediately thought that in his previous life, he was already nearing this stage at 12 o'clock at night, so he couldn't sleep peacefully. But this time, he decided to open it earlier. After thinking about it, he looked at Tao Xiaotian and Qing Ying, and told them that they should already go and kill monsters. Agreeing with him, the 3 of them went to Black Mist Canyon. When they reached Black Mist Canyon, Jiang Chun told Qing Ying and Tao Xiaotian to point to a large rock. When they were near the monster, they had to stand on this rock, and if Tao Xiaotian couldn't handle it, Qing Ying would block with a shield. After these words, Tao Xiaotian and Qing Ying immediately agreed with Jiang Chun. Jiang Chun finally started the operation. After a while, Tao Xiaotian and Qing Ying ran back, bringing a horde of monsters behind them who were chasing them. Tao Xiaotian breathlessly shouted to Jiang Chun that he had brought the monsters and everything was according to his instructions. After seeing the large number of monsters, Jiang Chun smiled, thinking as expected of a summoner. Then Jiang Chun shouted that they had done a good job. After that, he took out his staff and attacked the monsters. After killing them, the system reported that Jiang Chun's level had risen to level 10. Seeing this increase, Jiang Chun thought that this was a jackpot, and this talent was too cool. After this, he saw Qing Ying and Tao Xiaotian, who were half naked from fighting monsters, and asked how far they were from level 10. Qing Ying replied that he was in the middle of the 9th level, and Tao Xiaotian replied that he had just reached the 9th level. Turning away from them, Jiang Chun told them to keep killing monsters, and once they reached level 10, they should go to the secret realm. 3 hours later, there was already a group of people gathered in the ancient Shadowed Realm. Upon looking around, Qing Ying said that there were so many people here. Jiang Chun replied that they had come just for fun. The difficulty was too high, and they were all stuck at the 6th level, and couldn't beat the little monsters. Then Tao Xiaotian looked at Qing Ying and said that only a master can overcome two opponents simultaneously. Qing Ying replied with sarcasm to stick to principles and strive for candor. While watching Qing Ying and Tao Xiaotian, Jiang Chun asked what they were talking about and invited them to enter the dungeon faster. They also agreed with him. Tao Xiaotian immediately jumped up happily in agreement with Jiang Chun shouting forward, and Qing Ying, who was left behind, shouted at Tao Xiaotian for him not to push her. Jiang Chun, who was at the front, exhaled and held his head in a daze. Several players saw Jiang Chun, Qing Ying, and Tao Xiaotian. They started to wonder that they were below level 5 before, and now they could enter the world of the ancient shadowed realm. One of them said that this priest had very good abilities. He was close to a female knight and helped the girls to carry. They said that it was impossible to say for sure, but this priest was on the leaderboard. The person who spoke recently answered this person that the priest couldn't do any damage, so he was curious what kind of skill he was relying on. One of the players asks the others about what they just learned about them. Others answered that it had only been 2 days since the server launched, and only large guilds could form teams to enter the ancient shadowed realm. They wanted to know what their past was, or maybe they were related to a guild. One of them said that he believed the priest had a special relationship with the female knight. By the time they were gossiping, Jiang Chuning and Tao Xiaotian had already entered his dungeon. Qing Ying immediately asked why there were no monsters in this dungeon. Jiang Chun replied with a question: did they see that there were 4 circles on the ground? He then ordered them to stand by one of them. He told them they had to stand on them, standing like slabs of stone. Tao Xiaotian asked Jiang Chun what they should do with the other stone slabs. Jiang Chun told him to summon a summoning beast and place it on the stone slab. Jiang Chun thought that fortunately in the ancient shadowed realm, there was no need for a clear number of people, so they could rely on the help of pets. Otherwise, they would have to spend time assembling a team. Tao Xiaotian, who heard his instructions, immediately called a dog named Da Huang, and then ordered him to stand on a stone slab. As soon as the dog stood above them, the door in front of them opened. Behind them were also a large number of level 10 skeleton monsters. Upon seeing them, Qing Ying shouted and asked if this monster corresponded to the player's 7 major professions. Tao Xiaotian pouted, also asked why the summoner became a skeleton dog. Jiang Chun answered Qing Ying's question positively, saying that these skeletons had basic abilities, and their basic attributes were similar to a level 10 player. Hearing his words, Qing Ying was shocked and asked if that meant they were very strong. Tao Xiaotian answered his question by shouting negatively. He said that this meant Jiang Chun could kill them in a second. At the same time, Jiang Chun took out his mace and attacked all the skeletons at the same time and dealt them 460 damage. Tao Xiaotian was stunned to see the damage Jiang Chun dealt, and an amazed Tao Xiaotian said that he had read on the forum that this skeleton was very strong. They have a passive aura that deals 50 damage, and only a professional can kill them easily. At the same time, Jiang Chun thought that all of his skills except teleportation caused real damage, and the rest were negligible. After thinking, Jiang Chun noticed that the system sent him a lot of messages from other players in the exchange market. Many players offered high prices to buy the sword auctioned by Jiang Chun. Jiang Chun lit up and thought the bloody sword was really very popular. Then, after thinking a bit, Jiang Chun decided that the auction ended in just an hour, and there was no reason to rush. He was curious if they were rushing because of the ancient shadowed realm. While killing the skeletons, Jiang Chun thought if that was the case, then he couldn't sell it now and let these people fight over his sword. Now he just needed to not clear the dungeon until the auction ended, and it seemed like this time he would earn a lot of money. Jiang Chun continued to kill the skeleton beasts. Jiang Chun said that the quality of the drop weapons increased by 1 and only 18 bronze weapons dropped in 3 rounds. Even after the opening of the ancient shadowed realm, entry-level weapons would decline in interest, and bronze weapons would not be affected. Hearing those words, Tao Xiaotian whispered to Qing Ying that the price of a bronze item was 50 gold, and a pro player would earn over 100,000. Qing Ying immediately asked in surprise that whether it was possible to earn so much in this game. Tao Xiaotian also told him that pro players could get so much because ordinary people wouldn't be able to do this quest solo. If the profits are distributed evenly among the players and they may not exceed the disadvantages, they were determined to raise their level. While they were chatting, Jiang Chun asked what they were talking about and said that he should stay away or he would get involved. Tao Xiaotian was confused by what Jiang Chun meant. Soon various ancient guardians appeared who were level 10. Their abilities were that when they received fatal damage, they entered an invisible and invulnerable state, and their attack speed increased by 20%. Seeing this monster, Tao Xiaotian shouted to Jiang Chun to be careful, because this monster is very strong. 2/3 of the players in the forum died here. Jiang Chun confirmed his words in his mind. Jiang Chun attacked the monsters and dealt them 500 damage. He kept thinking that this stage could be skipped if he used kiting tactics. But the biggest problem was when the health of the elite monsters dropped to 10%. Dodging them will make them invisible, and it will take a lot of time and effort. So he had to let them launch attacks to break their invisibility. After that, he continued attacking the monsters, but some of them switched to close combat. While deflecting, Jiang Chun thought that attacks in hand-to-hand combat were unavoidable. But he has the blink skill. Then when 3 more monsters with weapons approached Jiang Chun, he thought that he would be dealing with 4 monsters at once, and when they got very close to him, he used the skill blink. Qing Ying, who witnessed this, immediately shouted that if he wanted to break invisibility, he had to let them attack with their damage, which was much higher than Jiang Chun's. Tao Xiaotian also said that this really tests the player's skills. Jiang Chun saw the monsters steadily approaching. By using blink, Jiang Chun was able to avoid them again. But this time, he used force and counterattacked them, killing them. After killing them, the system reported that he received a bone armor made of white jade with a silver rank that provided 30% plus defense and various other stats. After receiving it, Jiang Chun said that it was a top-tier item. Seeing this, Tao Xiaotian said admiringly that a pro player truly lives up to his title. Qing Ying also said admiringly that Jiang Chun's blink was really cool. At the same time, an earthquake occurred. Jiang Chun immediately realized that a boss monster would appear soon. Immediately, a level 10 ancient shadow undead appeared. Upon appearing, the boss monster immediately said that he was the chief mage of the ancient shadowed realm palace, and how an ant like that dared to appear here and desecrate his grave. He also declared to give them the death penalty. After learning about the boss monster's skills, Jiang Chun said with an annoyed face that there were 2 skills, one of which was suitable for long-range combat. But the other skill caused huge damage to the main attacker, which meant that everything would be directed at him. After a bit of thought, Jiang Chun decided that this wasn't a bad thing, since high-quality things would probably drop in the end. After that, Jiang Chun turned to Tao Xiaotian and Qing Ying and told them that this boss was very easy to defeat, so he would start attacking, and they could attack. After hearing his words, Qing Ying and Tao Xiaotian immediately thought that this boss was the most difficult and powerful on this server. But even so, they both responded positively. After their response, Jiang Chun started to think that Qing Ying Yang and Tao Xiaotian would use skills that reduced mana, but he would overcome Chaotic Soul alone. As long as he wore the illusion boots, he thought there wouldn't be a problem. Thinking of this, Jiang Chun took out his staff at the same time. Seeing this, the boss monster said that since they dared to attack here, he would definitely kill them all. Hearing his words, Qing Ying immediately said that he was very scary. Jiang Chun closed his eyes and thought that the boss monster felt childish for his old age. With a bang at the same time, the boss had created magic and sent it towards Jiang Chun. Jiang Chun easily dodged this attack and counterattacked. He then shouted at Tao Xiaotian and Qing Ying to begin with, but they must not get too close to him. Qing Ying started attacking the boss monster with her sword, and Tao Xiaotian summoned Da Huang and started attacking with him. After their few attacks, Jiang Chun shouted at them to get behind him now and leave everything to him. While saying this, he thought that the boss monster would think that they were the furthest targets, so he needed to pay attention to the skills of the 2 boss monsters. After Qing Ying and Tao Xiaotian stood behind Jiang Chun, he started attacking him. The worried Tao Xiaotian thought that the Chaotic Soul would have an effect. When the boss's health dropped to 90%, When the boss had 10% left, he activated Chaotic Soul and attacked Jiang Chen and hit him to reduce his health by 1500. Qing Ying, who witnessed that, immediately shouted and asked if Jiang Chen had been defeated. Tao Xiaotian immediately answered negatively and said that it was just a copy of him. After hearing her words, Jiang Chen confirmed it and said that it was true. Jiang Chen immediately received a message from the system that there were 20 minutes and 32 seconds left until the end of the auction, and his gold-rank Blood-Tide Greatsword had a bid price of 30,000 gold at the moment. Since the auction would end in 20 minutes, Jiang Chen decided to play it slower. He wondered how the major guilds would react after the sword's price went up so much after this ended. The Blood-Tide Greatsword currently had a bargain price of 35,000 gold. The remaining auction time is 2 minutes and 32 seconds. At the World Conquerors Guild residence, the guild president Tyrant Man shouted that it was the 8th team that had died too in the battle with the boss. He said it looked like they should buy the Blood-Tide Greatsword. His guild assistant, "Do you think I am hot or not?" answered him that the Blood-Tide Greatsword was still on auction, and its owner was not affiliated with any guild, and now the price had jumped by 40,000 gold. Tyrant Man immediately said that the person who sold it wanted to make a fight for it in the auction house. He also decided to continue to raise the auction price because he needed to obtain the Blood-Tide Greatsword. In Heavenly Court's guild residence, his guildmaster, Executioner Yama, asked his assistant how much this Blood-Tide Greatsword was worth now. His assistant, Deserved to be Alone, replied that the price was 40,000, and now it had jumped to 55,000. But Executioner Yama thought this was only a level 10 weapon, and if they continued to bid, they would lose money. However, Executioner Yama told him that if he bought the Blood-Tide Greatsword, he would be able to handle the ancient Shadowed Realm, so he had to keep an eye on the auction, and they had to get the sword. When there was 1 second left until the end of the auction, the price of the Blood-Tide Greatsword rose to 60,000 gold. Seeing them get that Blood-Tide Greatsword, Deserved to be Alone and Executioner Yama were happy to think that they would go to the ancient Shadowed Realm with the Blood-Tide Greatsword, and they would definitely get this first clear. But suddenly the system reported that players Qing Ying, Jiang Chen, and Tao Xiaotian had killed the boss of the ancient Shadowed Realm and achieved the first clear achievement. Executioner Yama immediately smashed a table in a fit of rage and told Deserved to be Alone that he would be looking for them immediately, no matter which guild the three were from. He said he would make them pay the price. At the same time, in the ancient Shadowed Realm, the system congratulated Jiang Chen for killing the dungeon boss, and since he was the first to defeat this boss, he would be given the title Trailblazer. Apart from that, the level has also increased to 11. Not only that, the Trailblazer title has the effect of increasing the item drop rate by 50%. Seeing this, Jiang Chen thought with a smile. All its free attributes are added to intelligence, and thus the damage can be increased. Tao Xiaotian and Qing Ying were really happy because they leveled up and got the title. Jiang Chen was also very happy because the title added an item drop rate of 50%, which was perfect to combine with a buff that increased the quality of item drops. After that, Jiang Chen decided to see what he got from the boss. The system notified that he got Gu Yu's Magic Crystal Ball, Vitality Necklace, Frenzy War Ring, and Sealed Skill Book. After receiving them, Jiang Chen said that out of all these items, he could only use 2 of them, which could increase power and health. Magic Crystal Ball is a growth equipment. As soon as dual casting is triggered, high-level opponents can be killed in an instant. After these words, Jiang Chen thought that the skill book was also a good item. Skill books that drop from these dungeon bosses are usually awarded 1 or 2 stars, but he didn't think that he would be so lucky. He was able to get all this equipment thanks to the buff from the God of Love. And this time, Qing Ying and Tao Xiaotian contributed to the boss fight. After thinking so, Jiang Chen turned to Tao Xiaotian and Qing Ying and walked towards them. He said that he had prepared 2 pieces of equipment for them, although it is bronze level, but now it is enough for now. Hearing his words, Tao Xiaotian and Qing Ying immediately thanked him. They simultaneously thought that they weren't helping much, but they still got items to share. They hugged while shouting that Jiang Chen was very good. Jiang Chen also thought about the fact that the exchange market had a daily limit for items on display, and he could use the remaining bronze-grade items for the magic crystal ball. After finishing thinking, Jiang Chun told Qingying and Tao Xiaotian that it was time for them to go to the main city. Since they had completed this quest, they agreed with him. After they exited the dungeon, people began to surround them and shout out praises that they were able to pass through dungeons that even large guilds had difficulty clearing. Most of the people ran towards Qingying and asked to take photos with her. Qingying looked at Jiang Chun and Tao Xiaotian with a questioning face. Jiang Chun told him that they would wait for him at the beginner village. Tao Xiaotian waved his hand and shouted that they would meet at the beginner village soon. In the Novice God Village Mansion first floor hall, Qingying, Tao Xiaotian, and Jiang Chun have gathered. Jiang Chun asked them if they had anything else to do in beginner village, otherwise they would have left now. Qingying and Tao Xiaotian happily answered that there were none. After hearing their answer, Jiang Chun received a message saying whether they wanted to go to Julu City. After responding to the message, the system immediately transported them to Julu City. Once arriving, Qingying immediately started looking around and exclaiming about how beautiful this place was. Tao Xiaotian happily said that he had heard that even though Julu City only had second tier, this place was extremely realistic and awe-inspiring. The forum says that there are 32 second-tier main cities in the game, and they also look realistic. Because of that, Tao Xiaotian praised the game developer for being truly extraordinary. Jiang Chun glanced at them and said that they could teleport between other major cities or explore on foot when their levels increased. After saying this, Jiang Chun thought that the game would really start from now on. After thinking so, Jiang Chun told them that they would first go to the main mansion to take on a mission. When Jiang Chun got there, he told Qingying and Tao Xiaotian that they could have a look, then they should take on the task of killing monsters and looking for hidden missions because he had something to do. Then Qingying and Tao Xiaotian agreed with him and parted ways. Jiang Chun went to the treasury office. In the room there is a finance secretary named Jin Tae. As soon as Jiang Chun entered Jin Tae's office, he lamented that he was the finance secretary and asked how he could help him, to which Jiang Chun replied that he wanted to rent a shop. Hearing his words, Jin Tae cheered on his face and asked if he needed a shop in the mansion or on the street. Jiang Chun told him that he needed a shop in the mansion. Jin Tae immediately put a sheet with a plan of the mansion in front of him and told him that this is a rental shop with the prices listed here. And when he made up his mind, he had to tell her. After looking at the list with shop prices, Jiang Chun started to think that the exchange market had a limit on the number of items that could be displayed, and by opening a shop, he could sell all the items he didn't need. And when Xia Ruir becomes a tailor and starts sewing clothes, she will also need a shop. After deciding on this, Jiang Chun told Jin Tae that he needed 6 rooms and asked if he could negotiate the annual price. Jiang Chun thought that the gold coins obtained from selling the blood-tied greatsword could be used to pay for his shop. Jin Tae, who heard his words, became happy, thinking that Jiang Chun was a rich man. He replied to Jiang Chun that the annual fee for him was 10,000 gold and asked him if he was satisfied with such a price. Jiang Chun answered positively. Jin Tae was also happy and shouted that Jiang Chun was a very good rich man. Jiang Chun then went to another room, thinking that now he should find a profession mentor in the main city to open his 3-star skill book. After knocking on his door, a woman greeted him saying that she was a middle-class instructor named Evelyn. He asks if she needs his help. Seeing his body, Jiang Chun immediately thought that he deserved to be a mentor priest because he had Evelyn's healing power, which was extraordinary. Then Jiang Chun shyly handed over the skill book and said that he wanted to open the skill book. Evelyn touched her chest and asked if this was a 3-star skill book. He then took the book and approached Jiang Chun and said he really impressed him, but he needed 50 gold pieces to open the skill book. The nervous Jiang Chun replied that he had no problem with it. After Evelyn received the money, she opened the skill book. The contents of the skill book turned out to be the Holy Light Array. His specialty is releasing hexagonal spells with a radius of 20 meters. All targets within the spell area will be restored by 100% of the user's spell power per second and has a duration of 10 seconds. Skills suitable only for priests. Jiang Chun, who saw this Jiang Chun, was excited because this was an AoE skill. He thought that if he combined this with Yin Yang Reverse, then it would be extraordinary. Jiang Chen immediately activated Yin-Yang Reverse, and now the skill became an AoE damage. Jiang Chen was very happy, because he got a skill area that covered 20 meters. After getting the skill, Jiang Chen thought that as long as the spell worked, this was his area. In it, he will become invincible. Now that his work was done, he had to go look for Qing Ying and Tao Xiaotian. He was curious whether they got the quest to kill monsters or not. After thinking so, he received a message from Qing Ying saying that he had found the hidden quest Endless Challenge and asked if he wanted to accept it. Jiang Chen thought Qing Ying was very lucky because this kind of task was rare. Infinite challenges are random tasks divided into 3 types. Types that increase the amount of XP, types that drop items upon successful completion, and types that grant XP and items upon successful completion. Qing Ying also sent Jiang Chen that NPC said that the exam was a very difficult quest, and those who did not pass would lose their items and XP points. Jiang Chen replied that it seemed to be a good challenge, but they would accept it. At the same time, in the mansion of the main city of Mingyue City, Deserved to Be Alone shouted to Executioner Yama and informed that it seemed that they had found the person who killed the boss of the ancient Shadowed Realm, and they were now in the main city of Julu. But before finishing his sentence, the president asked, "But what?" Deserved to Be Alone continued that they said their female knight was in first place on the national server list, and their priest was on the previous leaderboard. Even though they didn't have a guild, they were all masters, so it was dangerous to attack them. Executioner Yama answered that, because they dared to kill the boss faster than him, they had to pay. Therefore now he ordered 300 of his guild members to head to Julu City, because he wanted to kill this team. Deserved to Be Alone asked, wasn't that too much since most of their members were in Mingyue City, and the teleportation fee was 5 gold per person? Executioner Yama replied to him that since he was first in the national list, they should reward him. He wanted everyone to know what would happen if something happened to his guild, because God Realm is more than just a game. In Julu City's mansion, the system notified Jiang Chen that his team had accepted endless challenges to challenge the level 10 Abyss Rift. The Abyss Rift had appeared in the Nightmare Forest west of the city, and they should go there and challenge monsters. The system also gave him a hint that infinite challenge tasks could not be interrupted midway, and if his team failed, all rewards would be reset, and any piece of equipment used would be forcibly dropped, and XP level would be reduced. When Qing Ying and Tao Xiaotian met Jiang Chen, Qing Ying immediately said that he accepted this assignment, but saw no reward for it. Jiang Chen replied that the reward for this task was what the monsters would drop, and the odds for equipment dropping were 1 to 1, and the experience would be doubled, so they should get ready to complete the task. Agreeing with him, they all went together to the Abyss Rift in the Nightmare Forest. After entering the Abyss Rift, the system notified everyone that they had entered the Abyss Rift level 10, and they had to start a mission and fight for 10 minutes to complete this quest. After this warning, a level 10 demon appeared in front of them. As soon as Jiang Chen saw the demon, he told Qing Ying that it was his responsibility to fight the monsters, and he must not forget to put up a shield and keep them at a distance. Qing Ying also accepted the task. Qing Ying is immediately attacked by monsters, but she is able to defend herself by putting up her shield. Jiang Chen kept saying that he didn't need to deal damage but needed to focus on dodging. And since the number of monsters would soon increase, he needed to maintain his HP count. Tao Xiaotian then tells Jiang Chen that he is useless because he can't fight monsters and cause damage. Jiang Chen replied that summoners really weren't that strong in their early stages, but after level 20, their potential would increase. So now he just needs to fend for himself and not cause trouble. Tao Xiaotian smiled and answered positively. But soon she screamed at him, telling him that monsters appeared more and more, and Qing Ying could no longer hold them back. Jiang Chen immediately took out his wand and told him that everything would be fine. As soon as he said that, Jiang Chen activated the light array and started dealing damage to the enemy, causing 1120 damage to the demons, which greatly impressed Tao Xiaotian. At the same time, at the teleportation location of Julu City, Executioner Yama teleported to the city with a group of players. Seeing this, the local players asked what happened. They were sure there would be something interesting going on in this town.